Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Film After Reading, a podcast where we do our best to break down movie adaptations and answer that wonderful age-old question, should they have filmed this after reading? I'm one of your hosts, Allison Salamoni, joined as always by my fearless co-host, Miss Taylor Blunden. And today... Yay, hello. And today we have a guest. We have someone joining us today, which is very exciting. We have the lovely, beautiful, stunning Torie joining us today. Hello, Torie.
Hello. I am very excited to be here, and it's great to see both of you. And I think this is going to be a good chat. So I'm very excited.
I mean, like we were talking off pod, I think nothing is going to get the internet in more of an uproar than Elliot Page being in this movie than three women talking about this movie and this book.
And Torie, if you want to hold up the translation that you and I read, the lovely...
Yes. I read the Emily Wilson one. That is my canon. So
which the internet has been super normal and super chill about, by the way.
Yes, super normal.
Yeah. So, you know...
Elliot is playing Achilles, super chill.
Everything is chill. Yeah.
You know, super chill about Lupita Nyong'o being in the movie and not crashing out about that at all.
Nope.
Totally fine.
It's perfect. It's so great. It's so great
and beautiful.
Exactly. And so now that we've weeded out all of those assholes, hi friends, how's it going?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we should probably start off with how many times we've seen the movie and what formats we've seen the movie on, because that's been a huge thing everyone online has talked about, is how they've seen it, how many times they've seen it, where they've seen it, all that stuff.
Yes.
Perfect. I've had two screenings that I've gone to. The first one I did was in Dolby because that was the only one that had an open seat that I could go and see it on that Friday or Saturday or Sunday or whenever I chose to go see it. And then I saw it again this past weekend, this time on IMAX, and was exhausted walking out from being it was so much loud. The fact that a movie was louder in IMAX than in Dolby, and the fact that it literally, I was so overstimulated. I walked out and I just went,
you need to go in like one of those like with the aqua chambers where it's like soundproof. There's like no sensory.
I needed to go be like 11 in Stranger Things in a sensory deprivation chamber. So that's how I saw it. Taylor, what about you?
So I've seen it 4 glorious times at this point. I've seen it twice in our giant 70 millimeter IMAX theater, which at that scene where Zeus is like throwing it down at the end and the boat is a disaster, I literally thought I was drowning when I was watching it in the 70 millimeter IMAX with the 80-foot, 60-foot screen. Crazy stuff. So I've experienced that twice. And then I did it twice in the Dolby. We wanted to see what the difference was in the Dolby, because usually when we go see films, that's what we like to do. So we went to the Dolby to see it just to like get a different vibe. And then we took my brother to see it in Dolby because we were going to take him to the IMAX. But like the fact that we even got to see it twice in the IMAX, like we just could not find tickets to even like take him to the IMAX. So I've done it twice in those 2 different formats.
Can we officially say that Nolan's movies are the loudest at this point? Because I feel like, compared to, right, like Dune and everything else is very loud, but there's like, I feel like there's a difference with the reverb that goes on with like Oppenheimer.
I'm like, I joke around about like my ADHD and things like that, but I'm literally I'm like, do I have a sensory processing disorder? Because I am.
Do I need to wear earbuds?
No, like, I have brought
when I go to Nolan films, I wear these. I wear these bad boys because, and a lot of the times, like for the big IMAX films, I'll wear these because like my ears just can't do it. But especially for like the Nolan stuff, I'm like, I can't. I gotta protect my ears because it's just too much.
It's a lot. I'm gonna be taking loops, I think, for the next one.
Fair. I will say, so I was kind of boring. I only have seen it once. I would love to see it again, but I feel like, so I'm doing I won't go too far into it. I'm doing a cross-country road trip situation right now. And I saw it in St. Louis, Missouri, which was cool, with a friend. I think we just went to like a Regal, honestly. He bought the tickets and I was like, I will get the food. I think it was Dolby. And it was very loud and it was very good. I don't think there was an IMAX. I guess I could be wrong, in St. Louis that had tickets, was kind of the question as well, Taylor, to your point of like, I think when I looked even a few days ago, because we saw it like opening day on that Friday, I think there's still like limited tickets at most of the theaters I've been looking at. Right now I'm in like Virginia and they have Regals, but like other than that, I don't think there's a lot of options. I mean, I had a really good time. I almost bought the horse, the popcorn thing. And my friend like at first was like, oh, it's like $60 or something. And I thought he was like making an exaggerating joke. And then we got to the line counter thing. And I was like, oh, you like were being very realistic with what you were saying.
It really is $60.
But
I was so tempted to buy the horse just because like it's so like even just outside of the context of this film, it's really cool. Yeah. But I did break down and buy the popcorn bucket that is the IMAX camera that they have for this as well. That I did buy. So I do have that.
Look, could be worse things we're spending our money on.
That's true.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
When it is,
all the time.
Could use it. You could use the horse or the camera for other things, I feel like.
Exactly.
The camera is like cool decor.
People have been using the camera as like a little pot plant, like, and putting like stuff in it. So like, you know, there's plenty of things that can be done.
Treasures in it.
Exactly.
Idea.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we're doing well. I will say the giant IMAX screen we have here that does the 70 mil, people like travel like from Colorado and like all these different places to come see it, because it's like outside of the ones in LA, it's like this is the other one that you could travel to, basically.
Because that's the big thing is like, you know, filming, the one kind of thing that keeps getting brought up, and Frank and I were kind of talking about it, is that, you know, Nolan, it's cool that he used first used these specialty cameras to film on like specifically for IMAX and things like that. But when you actually think about what IMAX, and you've talked about it before, Taylor, a true IMAX, like I have an IMAX theater here in Orlando, but like, is it a true IMAX? I don't think so. And so I think that like, while everything says IMAX on it, it's kind of a technology that hasn't held up the way that it should for how big it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the fact that like you have the 70 millimeter true IMAX versus like, well, here's an IMAX because it's a big screen and it's loud or whatever it is.
Right. And that's like a huge thing. It was dying. It was completely dying form that wasn't actually used for feature films. It was mostly used for like documentaries and things like that, until Nolan was like, hey, let's just do this chunk of The Dark Knight in IMAX. And because he loves the form and he used to go see like documentary features and stuff in the IMAX. He was like, why don't we use this for feature films? And then for that segment of The Dark Knight, they used it, and he's been trying to bring it back to life basically ever since. And now all of a sudden it's coming back to life, and people are realizing that the screens and the projectors and stuff for it just are very rare because they were just not used. And we don't even really know how to build them anymore. Like it's gotten to that point.
Yeah, that infrastructure is just not there.
Yeah,
that's it's.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, not to like age myself immediately into the conversation, but because it's related to Nolan and IMAX. But it was funny you say that, Taylor, because I didn't know the history of the IMAX. But when I was a kid, there was a mall in my hometown in like upstate New York that had an IMAX. And typically my family would go and use it for, like you were saying, like documentaries. It would be like nature. It would be like something about like the ocean. And sometimes it would be in 3D. And so like as a family, we would go see it for like, I don't know, like a day at the mall. And we would go see something about the ocean or the forest or whatever. And then when I was 10 in 2008, we went and saw The Dark Knight in the IMAX because it was happening there. And I like begrudgingly, I don't know if I've told the story in front of both of you before, but I was like, I don't want to go see like a Batman movie. My impression of Batman was like Adam West, like cheesy pow. I was 10. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And my family was like, no, we want to go see it in the IMAX. Like, it's going to be really good. Whatever. I was 10. I didn't know. And it's my favorite movie still. And I just think about like what kind of impression also probably the IMAX had on me on top of just loving the movie. But I just remember being like completely absorbed and leaving and just feeling like I went and saw it like 5 more times. I made people take me. But it's like a core memory of mine is seeing it in the IMAX.
Isn't that amazing though, that like something like that can happen where it like does, because people kind of like joke about it and stuff, you know, where they're like, is it really that serious? But then you tell a story like that and it's like it had a real impression on you. Like it can be that serious. Like
yes. Yeah. I was like blown away with my little 10-year-old brain. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
I love that you're I'm just stuck on the fact that you were 10 and I'm
yes, I was like not to immediately reveal I am Gen Z, but yeah, no, Dark Knight was like core childhood for me. Yeah. For sure.
I'm not even going to do the math and think about how old I was. I don't want to know. I don't want to think about that.
I already know how old I am right now. So that is all that matters.
For that experience. Yes.
So diving back into this. So you both did the Emily Wilson translation. I did, and you read with your eyeballs, which Jesus Christ, like Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
It is thick and it is boring because I knew I was not gonna be able to read with my eyeballs. I was like, I can't do this. I got too much other shit to read. So I did via audio, and the translation I had chosen via audio was the Robert Fagles translation, specifically because Ian McKellen was the narrator on it. And I thought, Ian McKellen narrating the Odyssey, this is going to be amazing. And his voice and y'all, 4 hours into it, I'm like, oh my God. Like I don't like, he has a great voice. Morgan Freeman has a fantastic voice. Do I want to listen to him for 13 hours? You think you would, but after a couple, you're just like,
yeah.
And then, which then brings me to my other pet peeve of the internet being so nice and so kind. People mad that it is not a true one-to-one retelling adaptation. And bitches, I read it. This shit is boring as fuck. Why would anybody want you know what they did a one-to-one adaptation for? Psycho. Ask Vince Vaughn how well that went. Like, you know what I mean? Just
listen, I love me some classic literature, okay? But like this poem book, whatever you want to call it, like could have used some serious editing. Like it's long.
They could have benefited. Like,
there are some parts that just.
It was 8 hours of Odysseus just yapping about the bullshit that he did to show that men will do anything but ask for fucking directions.
Yes.
Literally, yeah. Which I mean, to be fair, that's very true to like men historically. So I guess at least it's accurate in that sense, I suppose.
I love seeing all the maps of like when people are like, no, guys, really, Odysseus was a bad sailor. Like, he couldn't have been that bad. And then like they pull up like the map of like what it technically was and how he sailed. And I'm like, oh yeah, no. He wasn't very good at this. Was not very good at that.
Real lost. Can I ask you both too? And I guess my assumption is yes, but were you not forced to read it in school?
I was
not. The Iliad. Okay.
I was not forced to read this in school. We did a lot of Shakespeare. We did a lot of like plays. We did a lot of classics, but we just, for some reason, this was not one that like we did. Yeah.
I've come to learn, me either, and I've come to learn, so I read the Iliad like a few months ago in preparation kind of for, I wanted to, read both of them, and I'd never read them before, and when people saw it like on my desk or when I was reading it, they were like, oh my God, I had to read that in high school or I had to read it in college, and people's association with it was more heavily about like, oh my God, it was such a slog because I had to read it for a test or something. Interesting. So I'm it's curious that the three of us missed that, I guess, like core memory for some people is like a lot of public education. They will make you read either the Odyssey or the Iliad or both.
But guess what? Still a slog. Still a slog. That hadn't changed.
I will say, I will shout out Emily Wilson, like in particular, her intro for the Iliad, I did appreciate, and like it kind of added to my ability to get through it, was she like talks about basically how the translation in itself was so challenging, in part because the way they spoke back then is just so different that you can't really directly translate it. And so she kind of admits that there's going to be things that are like omitted or missing or that feel weird because they genuinely spoke different and that affected the way they read. And also there was like a musicality to the story that a lot of like theories suggest that they think it was meant to be like out loud read among other people in parts. And so sitting and reading it silently to yourself is not necessarily the same experience as what it probably felt like for them. So there's like interesting things with that we can get into with the movie adaptation too, of like the musicality of the language probably has gotten lost over the years to where when you print it and you're not getting visuals, or like in your head you're not having the same visuals that they would have had, probably makes it sloggier for us compared to
that
was like,
because I haven't read the Iliad, but this, I really did appreciate that same thing at the beginning of this translation of the Odyssey, where she spends like 100 pages just kind of breaking down things of like, hey, this might be a little weird. I had to like take this into consideration when I was doing this. Like she did a really good job of kind of like breaking down her approach to how she translated it and like why certain things were the way they were. That really kind of helped me get through like the actual poem afterwards, just because I kind of had a base understanding. And she used like examples from the texts like that you were about to read of like why things were like worded a certain way or like her interpretations of stuff. So I really appreciated that a lot because, and we can get into this too when we actually start talking about the film, but there were so many people who were bitching about, you know, it not being a true adaptation, whatever that even means, but it being a true adaptation because, you know, this or that, when it's like, I don't even think that's possible at this point with the things you were talking about. First of all, where they spoke so differently, they lived so differently, like, this is probably was never actually supposed to be written. This was supposed to be a verbal thing that people experienced together and told like rhythmically and musically. And even without all that, you know, the language is completely different. The translations are always going to kind of lose certain things because languages are just so different. Like, that's just not even a possible thing that we could do right now, even if we wanted to. There's no way.
Thousands upon thousands of years old. And that's why there's multiple translations. There's different people that have translated for different things. Some of the research that I had done was looking into the different types of translations and what they mean and what they are and what's best for what, because I wanted to make sure if I was going to be reading one, like I wasn't reading like the Kids Bop version.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, granted, there was one point I was talking with Taylor and I was just like, I'm about to go watch the fucking Wishbone episode. I don't know if I can get through this book right now.
Or like Epic the Musical, like break it down.
Literally. But so like the translation that I did, the Robert Fagles translation with the Ian McKellen narration, that one is said to be perfect for dramatic retellings, for that type of energy. So like the medium that I was reading it on was the perfect medium for that translation. The Emily Wilson translation that you guys read is the one that obviously Christopher Nolan had used and adapted for this film, but two, it's supposed to be the more feminist as you can make the Odyssey, which is still, you know, a feat in and of itself. So, and then there's some that are like the more traditional translations and the this and the that, but it's just like, it's with anything in that time period, that's what it was. It was storytelling, right? It was, we're going to tell this story and pass it down. So like you said, the original, whatever telling of it, when Homer heard it from whoever told it to him and he chose to write it down, like it's a game of telephone. He was probably like, oh, that's cool, but let me say it this way. And like within that, you know, as much of a slog as this was to go through, like that type of storytelling is also really prevalent in, or like when you're reading, and one of the things that I really enjoy reading is like Latinx folklore and things like that. Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, I think is a perfect example of, you know, a book that is telling you a story versus you reading it and like taking it in that way. Like it's so weird to like describe it, but like you could tell even from this trend with the Odyssey, is that this was meant to be a story that is told, like put out there, versus like, you know, consume, like reading it the way they were. It sounds weird. It probably doesn't make sense, but it makes sense in my head as I'm saying it.
No, I mean, I think it's like the form itself is like a whole thing. And then, yeah, like when we talk about the film, it's like even that translation of like what gets lost, what gets enhanced. I will say 2 more fun facts about just my book knowledge that I swear I won't go too much into minutia during this about all my like literary world stuff, but I just think it's interesting and it'll relate to like the movie. The Odyssey and the Iliad, which I might also, my pronunciations of things are just awful, so I'll just say that now. People's names, I will just take the
we're gonna get through it together. We're gonna get
take
through
the L. I'm literally gonna keep calling Elliot Page's character Achilles just to piss off the bros.
Like we're just gonna,
like I know he's not, and I know that it was such an important like part of the story, but I'm going to keep going.
I have so much to say about. I have so much to say about that part of the story when we get there.
You know what we mean. But the one fun fact is the Iliad and the Odyssey were part of a larger series. I believe it was like a 7-book or 8-book series, but the rest have been lost to time. And so we never get to know where in the series these were. Were they meant to be in an order? Were they meant to be separate? That's unclear. And then my other fun fact that is kind of funner, which I think was more recently revealed, archaeologists found a copy of the Odyssey with a mummy in a tomb. And cool. That basically now suggests that it may have been like the first book that we have evidence of that genuinely had copies that traveled with people and were buried with human beings. Because most books don't either make it in time when archaeologists find them, where like they can't tell what book it was or there's no reference. But they literally found a copy of the Odyssey with someone who in their tomb with them, which I just think when we talk about, like the translations and people being able to access a story, I just think it gets interesting with like, this may have been one of the first stories that people outside of the direct place where the storyteller were able to access it and were talking about it with each other, and it like affected their conversations, or it may have just been something that was fun that they read together. But I just think that that's really interesting that even in ancient Egypt, they were chatting about the Odyssey.
It wasn't the Emily Wilson translation, I'll tell you that.
She did not, she did not have her copy over there.
That is really cool, though. That's it just,
I mean, and that really does put into context just how old this story is, because you can tell people over and over that it's old, but like that is like a tangible way for people to grasp like how long this story's been around.
People were entombed, getting entombed. It's incredible. Yeah,
insane. Well, with that, I think, kind of going into the next step is really, I mean, to the best of our ability with the time allotted this. Well, I feel like we could do a whole like dissertation defense and thesis on everything with this. Because I told Taylor when we were first talking about like setting up the date for recording, I saw it on this, I think like either the Saturday or the Sunday that it came out. And I was like, okay, we'll record on Monday. And then I went, you know what? I need to watch this again, because there was just so much. And that first time I was just in awe of just like, what and like the acting in it and like that part of it, that like the story itself, which is really, and the way that it was kind of done by Nolan too, is the second time I saw it, the story that he wrote and the script that he wrote and all of that felt very surface level, easy to understand. Right. But then upon the second watch, like I have that surface level story, but then you start getting into the nitty gritty of like the symbolism and what you see and what, like, just like I have on our thumbnail, it is the aura that is Agamemnon covered up by 3 hot women. Because I'm just like, again, let me just make men mad on the internet. I love it. Nothing I love to do more than make men angry on the internet. Torie, you guys remember the man I've made mad on the internet.
I do know.
So just kind of diving into it, I think, probably let's, start so starting at the beginning, we'll start at the front. We come in and we have Odysseus on Calypso's island, starting to remember things. And then one of the beats that I liked that I think did well with the story into the movie is we go straight into the book of Telemachus, which I think that was a good place to start. And he really could have started it any which way, how he wanted to, but we're getting right off the bat with the Tom Holland of the Telemachus of it all. And I mean, Travis Scott just on the table.
Yes.
Just, so we'll start there with that point.
The first controversial point.
Yeah. The thoughts.
Yes.
All of it. Let's go. A Black man on the screen in the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Just immediately, just.
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was a great way to, it kind of just bleeds directly into what we were just talking about, right? Where it shows that, hey, this is a story that was meant to be spoken and had a rhythm and had like a musicality to it. And I think it was really smart for Nolan to kind of kick it off in that way. And I think it kind of puts you into that mindset of like, even if you don't consciously recognize it, you're like being put in the shoes of someone who's sitting there listening to the story being told to you, which I think is a really cool way to introduce the film.
Yeah, no, and I think even Christopher Nolan, I believe in an interview or an article I read, mentioned that one of the reasons he felt like he needed to have him in the film, or at least like a rap artist, was again just the idea of like rap music in modern day is one of the most successful forms of poetry. Like it's impactful, it's accessible, it's memorable
Kendrick
for people.
Lamar is a poet laureate, like
right, literally, like it's storytelling, and it's in modern day, like in one of its most accessible forms. Like people who rap, like you don't need even instruments, right? Like him just tapping his thing on the table, I thought was meant to kind of symbolize like what storytelling has been throughout history in the forms it's taken. So yeah, I didn't mind it at all. Like I know that was one of the more like I guess controversial things people are talking about, was that the music like did not fit with the film. But like I felt like, again, Christopher Nolan, and I think immediately it starts to tell you that he was not going to tell you a rendering of the story that focused on getting all of the details perfect for the sake of getting it perfect. I think it was him right off the bat saying that this is going to be a story about storytelling and about the impact of this story in particular on humankind, and what these sort of moments in the Odyssey mean for us now. Like it was going to be a modern interpretation of it. I don't think he wanted to pretend it was going to be
today, right?
Yeah.
And I think and then getting into the next controversial thing that's right off the bat is the whole like the American accents of it, general modern English, which again I loved, because I thought that's how movies are just done, right? Like I just feel like it made perfect sense. Give them all the same accent, let them go through, and just let them cook. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Let them cook. Like
it was such a stupid controversy, man. Like this movie was just full of stupid controversies by dumb people, but this one pissed me off so bad. I was like, because I would watch people after I had seen the movie, I went back and watched some people like reacting to the trailers when they came out and things, just because I was really interested to see what the vibe was before the movie came out. And there were people who would watch the trailer and be like, they would literally just couldn't like separate themselves from the fact that there were American accents in the trailers. And I was just like, and they're just like talking about how British accents would have been more accurate. And I was like, I'm going to jump through the screen and give you a lecture on how British accents, modern British accents are still so far away from any kind of way they would have been speaking. Like if you wanted historically accurate, like that's just, it's such a weird thing to me that people were like, it can't possibly, like, this is the furthest away it could have been from being accurate because they're speaking in American accents. And I'm just like, you're going to have so many problems with the film if that's what you're already hung up on.
That's what you're
that's not the point. That's not the point. Like you're going into this wanting a historically accurate one-to-one adaptation. And to me,
you might as well get them to all learn how to speak Latin at that point and give me subtitles.
You might as well just go
a silent film.
Go watch the version.
Just all the things. pictures.
Go watch the version that Elon Musk is threatening to make
with his AI.
With his AI and whatever the hell else, because that's just like, I don't want to just be like, people can't have their opinions on things like that, because they can, but trying to like use the historical inaccuracy of it is the thing I think that bothers me about it, where it's like, okay,
people
just
mad.
say you don't have accent.
The Venn diagram of people mad about American accents in that movie and Snyder Bros is just a circle.
Yes, full circle. The Venn diagram.
It's just one big circle, a big old loop is what that is.
And I mean, I feel like those are the same people who, like, when Hamilton, right, was happening, they were like, oh my God, like, not being realistic with the right, with having only white people. But again, it's like, I think when I've watched now like a few stories where it's like intentionally not going to try to perfectly again get every detail for you, it's like, again, it's like with Hamilton, regardless of how you feel about it, it's like it's because they weren't going to tell that, they weren't telling that story, and they didn't want you to get distracted by it. And so it's like right out the gate when you put on Hamilton or you go to the theater to see it, they're not even going to feign it. It's like immediately you're like, oh, they're doing like a different thing here. Like they're not trying to perfectly get it, and so they're trying to say something else. Which is the whole point. It's like they get to make those decisions, and if you want to read a very accurate interpretation, you can always go back to the book, or
100%.
Make your little AI movie, I guess, and watch it in your home.
Taylor and I have this conversation a lot because we are doing a podcast about adaptations of books into films, and nothing is ever going to be perfect, right? Because what's written in a book is meant to be read that way. What's put on a film is meant to be for entertainment. A book is meant to be entertainment too, but in different ways, right? And how it's supposed to be. So you go back to our first episode where we're talking Project Hail Mary, and the book and all of its science-y glory that was still a really fun read. Taking all of that science and putting that in a movie, you're going to have a really boring movie with Ryan Gosling saying big words, which is not what I want. I want hot Ryan Gosling playing with a rock and having fun and making me cry. Like, that's what I want. I go to like be entertained in that way. If I wanted the science, I'll just reread the book. With the Odyssey, I am going into a movie about the Odyssey expecting, I want big. I want Nolan. I want, like, we saw Oppenheimer, those couple of years ago. And like, that was a big magnum opus where I felt like one of the downfalls of that one was the list of every single big name in Hollywood making a 2-minute cameo in it. And then that's all that I ended up caring about, on top of Cillian Murphy's phenomenal performance. But like, what you're doing when you're going to see something that is directed, written by Christopher Nolan. Like, I'm not expecting a little perfect, but I want big. I want battle. I want not as loud as it was. That's probably my only gripe with it. But
for some reason, after all these years, theaters still haven't figured out what to do with his sound mix that he sends them. Like, they still just have not figured out how to make that a thing. But
coming from the person who works at a theater, like, Taylor's like, fuck.
Listen, nobody's ever happy with the volume of a movie in a theater ever. It's either always too loud or too quiet.
Yeah.
And like, and then with Nolan, it's just like, I'm sorry, you just got to live that reality. There's just nothing I can do for you.
You can't hear something, go to the one where they have the captions on the screen. Just go to the open caption.
Let me grab you a closed caption device and I'll send you back in there. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Do you want your eardrums blown out, or do you want to be mad you can't hear shit? Because there's no in between.
But to what you were kind of saying, Allison, I think that that's something, for some reason, that people didn't really go, not everyone, but a majority of probably the general audience of people didn't go into this movie remembering or realizing that Nolan was going to tell this story, but he was going to have a thesis statement. He was going to have a version of it that was going to say something that he wanted to say. Like, it wasn't just going to be, here's what's in the text, here's how I can kind of try and make it work on screen. No, he's going to read the poem and he's going to take away something personal from it, and then he's going to show us that, right? Like, that's the whole point of an adaptation. And I think people just didn't walk in with that in their heads. So then they walked out, and when you get this movie,
being more mad about Christopher Nolan's adaptation and not Homegirl's Wuthering Heights adaptation.
Bro, don't even bring it
up.
I can't. Everyone's like, oh, it's so cool that she made it so modern and sexy. And I'm like, please. Anyway, I'm going to crash out. I can't do this.
I am just hitting it left and right today, guys. I woke up and chose violence is what it is.
Mm-hmm. You're right, though. For some reason, people see that, and that's not the same thing for them. Like, you can do this modern, crazy, sexy, weird remix of a movie like that, but then as soon as you do something with the Odyssey, that honestly, his version isn't even that crazy. Like, it's not even straying that far.
And we all know it's because Wuthering Heights is a feminine story.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
The Odyssey, right?
100%. Yes. 100%.
Are
right?
terrible.
Yeah. There's a level.
Yeah.
I've had this conversation now multiple times. The way that I know gender, sexual, like none of that is chosen by you. Like you because you think I would choose to be attracted to a man, like on purpose. With the way that the world, and I love my husband. My husband is incredible. I love Frank. You're amazing. But with how men, with how men are, you think that if I had the option, I would have gone another way.
Literally, honestly.
Literally.
Yes.
This is what it is. But then I see Matt Damon.
Men are lucky we don't have a choice. I'll just say that.
But then I see, then I see Matt Damon without a shirt on in this, and I'm like, yeah, sounds about right.
Yes, like, all right, fair enough.
You'll hear my key difference about. I separate the men in the Odyssey by like the wet men on the boats and the dry men back with Anne Hathaway. Because they don't get wet, and Robert Pattinson and all them.
Bunch of
wieners
stay
on land. Yeah,
bunch of wieners. Speaking of controversial moments in this movie, I feel like we need to have a quick detour. One, every English teacher's dream of John Leguizamo, who not only was probably one of the best Tybalts of all time in the Baz Luhrmann,
yes,
Romeo and Juliet,
yes.
But in this movie, like people know him from his comedy, right? Like that's what a lot of people know him from. Personally, I know him from Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, where he's an incredible drag queen in that movie. And that is, we got some, along with Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze. If you've never seen it, I need you all to go watch it right now. But in this movie, how fantastic he is in his role, but the whole scene with the dogs that everyone also got very mad at. Because all this is proving to me in this conversation is that if we didn't already know it, literacy is dead. And those people who are mad at that part of the movie are the people that got left behind with George W. Bush.
Yeah.
Like I remember reading about ancient Greece and like people saying if a baby had a birthmark on its face, they threw them off the cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is what it is. And I think like people are like, well, why do you have to put it in? Why do we have to see it? Why do we have to do this? And again, like, have you seen Christopher Nolan's movies?
Yes.
Like, have you seen them? Like, everything has a point. And the point of this, to me, is showing that this is a time frame of just literally no mercy. It is kill or be killed. This is what we do. If I just don't think this dog is going to work, bye.
Yeah.
And they didn't fall down. There was a mat right there. They got caught. No puppies were hurt. But like, it's jarring. But at the same time, it's like, it's what it was.
Yeah. It reminds you of the world that you're in, right? Like it reminds you that, even though you're getting the American accents and you're getting the actors that you recognize and all that stuff, like those little moments are going to be there to show you, no, this is not right now. This is how it was back then. And that's just
that's your true adaptation. That is your
exactly.
historical actors.
Exactly. That's you wanted that, right? That's what you were asking for.
Yes.
Oh, not that accurate.
Oh, right.
Not if it makes me uncomfortable, though.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Exactly. Saw that we moved past that, but getting back into it and just talking about performances. First of all, Tom Holland looks like he is still 16.
I don't know how he does it.
Him and Paul Rudd are vampires.
I think Tom Holland is technically like in his 30s now, right?
Well, he just turned 30.
Married and shit.
He just turned 30. Yeah.
He's a whole ass grown up. I need his skincare routine.
He's a 96 baby, I think. 96, 97. Yeah, he's like just 30. But yeah, he talked about on this press tour how he thinks he's, kind of finally gotten to that point in his career where he's done playing young men, and this was kind of the bookend of it for him, which was really interesting and really kind of fitting for him to have that as that crossover point in his career. But I do think as an actor, both like in terms of his skill and what he looks like physically, he was kind of the perfect actor to put in this role, right? Because he's supposed to be sitting in that kind of awkward spot of like, he's coming of age, but he's still kind of like seen as a kid, but he's trying to figure out how to come into his own man when his father's been missing his whole life. And he's been, disrespected by all these suitors in his father's house. And he doesn't really know how to navigate it because the only kind of, at least in the movie version, the only like men that he has around him to kind of guide him through anything are Mentor, are, John Leguizamo's character. And then you've got freaking Antinous there trying to fuck his shit up all the time. Like that's basically, those are the men that he has around him the most, and kind of who he's having to be around and kind of trying to become a man and become like this hero that's supposed to take over the throne. And he just is kind of stuck being that kid because of the circumstances that are around him. And I think he just does such a great job over the course of the movie, kind of showing that, he has that kind of naivete. He has that kind of childness to him still, but he is coming into himself through those situations that are forcing him to, like having to deal with Antinous and having to deal with the suitors and having to remind everyone that even though, his father's gone and it's not, he's not the king, it's not his house, he is still looking after making sure their family is following Zeus's law and welcoming in the beggars and not, kind of, because they're destroying his house. They're eating all the food. They're draining all the wealth. They're doing all this horrible stuff, but he's still there trying to make sure that they're not upsetting the gods and they're not breaking Zeus's law. And I just find that's such an interesting thing for him to kind of have to navigate in the movie.
That's I also think, like, not to, I guess to get into some of the bigger themes, but I also felt like that the character and the way Nolan depicted it is meant to also be like sort of a symbol or stand-in for sort of the modern day young man and like the options ahead, right? Where it's like you're simultaneously full of agency and desire to do things. He wants to protect his mom, but he's not sure, is protecting her, supporting her and not choosing anyone, or is it actually better for her and them if she chooses someone? Like he's trying to sort of figure out how to just be kind, and is sort of how I truly view the depiction, was like he's trying to be helpful, he's trying to, like you were saying, Taylor, like still abide by Zeus's law, still take care of people who can offer you nothing, because that's what he was raised to do. But he's also being met with this wall of dry men, as I call them, who are
Haley has opinions, apparently,
and I'm sort of offering him like an off ramp that would in a way be easier, of it just being like, just let them do what they want, and don't fight back, don't do something. And he's sort of choosing in an imperfect way to try and do something when he goes out and visits John Barenthal, which we can talk about. But he's trying to he's trying to do something, and I thought that he was like a good stand-in for that type of character, where it's you really have to let me empathize with you, but also in the moments where you're flawed and he's trying to pressure Penelope into, like, you understand why. But you're also, like, okay, don't do that. Like, it's not going to help you. And one of the other things that I feel like they never explicitly state, but I knew from context, is if Penelope got remarried, he would be killed immediately. I mean, they obviously send the men to go kill him preemptively. But the whole reason Penelope has that conversation with him later in the movie is he's not saying out loud, and she's kind of not saying out loud. The etiquette back then, if she were to remarry, is that he would be killed so that their new children would be the inheritors. So he's literally fighting for his life without saying that out loud, and he's trying to navigate it in like the most respectful way possible.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also think it's interesting because even like through that lens of the original text, but even more so through like a modern adaptation lens, I think it's interesting for him because the journey we get with his coming of age journey is him inheriting a world that he heard, you know, all these songs about and grew up like expecting he was going to inherit. And then he's getting the aftermath instead, which is basically what all of us are living through right now. We had this version of the world that was promised to us that we grew up expecting to get when we were older. And it's destroyed. It's gone. Like it doesn't exist anymore. And his 100%. Character is experiencing the exact same thing by the end of the film. That world that he'd heard all the songs about and spent all this time dreaming about when he was hoping his father would come home, it's just not there anymore because of the breaking of Zeus's law and the effect that has, the ripple effects of their society just crumbling. And then he's dealing with what's left. And that's what we're all doing right now.
And that's what we're doing now. And it's living long enough to, you know, with Odysseus' version, living long enough to see yourself becoming the monster that you were meant to fight, right? Like that whole, one of the things that I don't remember much from the book, but when they were talking about the people from the sea, the people from the sea that are coming, the people from the sea that are coming, just to have it wrap up at the end that it was him and it was his men, and the chaos that they just sowed through these islands with this trip and this just, and all for a vanity war, right? Like that, I think that was one of the other beautiful, you know, moving into like the next part of everything, you know, working into what happened at Troy and this war and Agamemnon's battles and the choices that Christopher Nolan made of, we're not getting him without his helm until you see him for his face for a brief second as he gets murdered, right? Like everything is so specific and just a choice. And the gold spine pieces going down the back, just it's showing this vanity. And that is that, like Odysseus was saying to Penelope, it's, yes, we're saying, even though Helen went off and wanted to be in Troy, like regardless that this war is in her name, but it's actually in the name of running the trade routes and having power and all of that, just to get home and have it taken away from you by your wife murdering you because you killed your kid. Because it's all, again, this vanity. So these themes that just, I think one of them, as cliche and as, I guess, like generic of a thought as it is just that scene of the gates opening and Agamemnon standing there, that oar, and then everyone just starts rushing in, and he's just walking because he's not lifting up a sword. It's so many comparisons to what is happening today.
Yes, and even the gold. If I thought a lot about that. Not like just done some research into the history of gold with America, but I mean Trump and gold, like right, like just all of it. I think was intentional. I don't think that it was accidental 100%. Yeah, his little
nothing
spine.
That man does is is accidental in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
There's no way.
Yeah. No, I do think this is probably a great way for us to transition into just kind of talking about that sequence in general. But I love the way that the movie frames the different ways that we keep getting little bits of that story, right? Like throughout the film, we don't get the full thing all in one hit of what happened when they went to Troy. We just get these little moments that are kind of interspersed throughout the film. And I think they're all kind of put in the perfect place and being told by the correct people at the right times, because it's giving you like those narrative punches, right? Like for John Bernthal, when he's telling you a specific part of the story that you get, because there are certain things that you want Telemachus to learn during that point. And so we're also learning it. And you're seeing the war through his perspective. Whereas then when we, at the end of the film, get to hear it through Odysseus's perspective, and it's just a completely different Troy that you get to hear about, and the way that it's talked about and the way that it's framed through, you know, the way that he's talking about it, and you hear the voiceover, but then even just the way that the shots are framed and the way that the sequence is edited. I thought it was just, we can kind of get into more details about it, but I just thought the way that it was used to kind of show us how the different people involved in the Trojan War like viewed it, and how they felt about it, and kind of how over time it kind of became this whole other thing. I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, no, I think when you're getting, I honestly didn't even think about that at first, like who's telling, like what part of the story you're getting based off of who's telling it. And I literally just had oh shit. Like, because it's true. Like you have Menelaus telling Telemachus, look at me getting these names right and not fucking it up. Snaps for me. Love that. But it's not going to happen again. I'm going to let you know that right now. But having Menelaus telling the story of building the horse, hiding in the horse, Sinan, and you don't even get Sinan in that part, right? Like you're not seeing that part of it. You just see the spear come through because they're inside the horse, and then it's this epic battle is what it is, and it is everyone's going for it, and then we're saying our goodbyes and we're sailing off. Like
his version of it is glorifying Odysseus. His version is making sure Telemachus knows that without Odysseus, they weren't making it into the walls of Troy. He had the ideas. He knew exactly what to do. He was right. He was this brilliant, brilliant guy, and he's putting this kind of reputation. He's feeding into that reputation that Odysseus has, and he's telling it like it was this great. He even starts fighting with her about it as he's telling it. And she's like, oh yeah, your glorious fucking, you know, she's like over it. She is like, absolutely not. It wasn't this thing you're building it up to be. Like there was so much loss and so much, like it was terrible and awful. Meanwhile, he's sitting there telling Telemachus like it was this glorious win that they had. And it was this thing to be proud of, and this thing that he's like, so wanting to make sure that Telemachus understands like how much of an achievement it was. And then when you get to hear Odysseus' telling of it, it's not that at all. Like not even a little bit.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's just, and then now going from that lens, now you're looking at the moments where he's with Calypso and starting to remember the different bits and pieces. Now you're getting it from his perspective for this journey, because there's no one else still alive that can tell this story. So now we're getting the journey with it and what happens within that. So also one thing I want to note with the battle in the Troy, and like the different moments in like Ithaca and everything. Normally I hate the use of like natural lighting in movies and TV and things like that. Like we all remember that episode of Game of Thrones where we're all excited for the White Walker and it was dark as fuck.
Yes.
For this, again, I don't know what Christopher Nolan, I don't know how to do the magic of what he did. Maybe he just had a lot more flames. Maybe he was like, let's just make more fires because that'll help. Show things. Or like buildings to it for it to reflect off of might be a good idea. But I mean, just the visions of everything happening and all of that, even though it's so dark, but that natural lighting with it was just throughout the whole movie, I thought was just chef's kiss.
Yes, I will say,
I
was even gonna say, like, I think also he was trying to capture, and I often forget because we have electricity everywhere. Like the world was so much darker back then, and right, not only like in the Trojan horse or like on the ocean where it would be pitch black if you did not have candles lit, but just in any sequence, it would have been a very dark place for them, and I think that's part of when he's trying to sort of capture, like you were saying earlier, sort of the time of what it would feel like to be out in the world in these places you're not familiar with. And on top of not being familiar with it or in a battle, it is also pitch black if you do not have candle lighting. And I think he may have been trying to get as close to that as possible without it just feeling like a black screen to us.
Absolutely.
Which can go poorly.
Yeah. Well, with what you were saying, Allison, how we kind of then get the rest of the movie, at least for his journey, framed through Odysseus telling Calypso about it because no one else is alive to talk about it.
Spoilers, guys.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. But in the poem, it's kind of pretty explicitly stated that Odysseus is a trickster and he's a liar and he kind of just says whatever bullshit he wants to say. In this version, in the movie version, do we think that Nolan made him more of a reliable narrator, or do we think he's kind of just saying stuff? Like, how did you guys feel about that? Because to me, I feel like he's still very cunning and he's still very like smart and he knows how to talk his way in and out of situations, like with his crew and stuff as well. But I don't think I see him as like a necessarily unreliable narrator in this version for the most part. I feel like we're kind of getting it mostly straightforward, and the parts that maybe aren't completely correct are because he's still like remembering stuff as he's talking about it. But I don't know if that was just me.
I think that you get so like moments where you get like the trickster when we're looking at the whirlpool versus the channel, everybody dies or we lose 6 people and having to make that decision and making it be where his men are the one that make the decision for him and like doing it that way. And then even says like, you wouldn't have gone if you had done this. Like you know, like you wouldn't have done it if I said to do it if you knew. So here it is. Along with, you know, going into the Sirens song, right? And in that whole scene, it's like the fact that he is, again, it shows his moments of ego, right? Like, I get to be the first, the only one to say that they've heard it and can live. Shooting that extra arrow in Cyclops's eye to then get Poseidon on them. And like, so I think Nolan, with the way that he did the writing, is you get those beats of Odysseus is like, he is not that great of a person, but also I think it's a good duality of just humankind in general. Like, we should be striving our best to be the best, to be our best version in the world and be caring and all of these things. But sometimes I love being a petty little bitch. And like, you know what I mean? Now, not to the detriment of like having the god of the ocean when I have to sail on it mad at me. But, you know, and I think he did a really good way of showing that Odysseus is not all bad, but he's not the hero that the world is singing about right now. Like he is, and again, it just goes to show you how stories are passed down. And that's what also he's doing with these songs. Odysseus, and that's the journey that he's on, right? He's learning through this and through his remembering on the island with Calypso that like, I'm not as good of a person as the world thinks I am. And what am I going to do about that?
It's a really good question, and that's like a really good point as well, Allison. And like what I started thinking about is I think he's as unreliable as a narrator as he is in the written form, but I think because we're in a film adaptation, you more quickly see that he is that a lot of the moments are way more complicated than he would let on if he was telling it to you. Like I think of the Cyclops scene, not to just like jump into that, but it's like I view it as the first moment where he fails, right? But when you tell that story, he could still tell it as if he won that situation, right? Because he did use his intelligence to get them out of it. And I love even the subtleties of when he's like, wait, don't kill him, because like they need him to move the rock, and he's like realizing that they can't just kill him.
Yeah.
But I view that whole scene as it pretty explicitly is showing us, I think Nolan is showing us that this is a failure. With how vulgar it is and how grotesque it is and what he chooses to linger on with the men's faces, where we don't even know these men, but we're sitting with them in their perspective of it. And so we're viewing it away from Odysseus is like in that moment. And even if it's like a heroic monster versus hero thing, we're getting this perspective that is bigger. And even like I forget which man at the end of that scene mentions like, oh, he can speak. I didn't know he could speak.
Yeah.
And even just pointing out that little detail that if Odysseus was telling it, or the songs were telling it, that wouldn't be captured. But because we're watching a film adaptation and we get to see different perspectives, even outside of our main character, we listen to that and we go, oh, this could have been approached differently. He's very smart, but there's something about his ego that is getting in the way of him being able to use his intelligence fully. And it's an interesting question, Taylor, because I think he is as unreliable as he would be in the written form, but because of the fact that we're watching a movie and we get to linger on different things, and the grotesqueness of the Cyclops does not feel heroic to me, like, at all. Like, I did not view that scene at all as like they got out, they escaped.
No,
like even though some of them died, they got out. To me, it was very.
It's just people minding their own business, right? Like,
literally,
and again, it's an allegory into the people in Iran minding their own business.
and them trying to force a really horrible version of Zeus's law onto this poor creature that's minding his business, right? Like, they're breaking into his house when he's not there. They're expecting to just take whatever they want in the name of Zeus's law. Or whatever version of it they're running around pretending is Zeus's law.
Because they just set that other land on fire because the people disappeared. And then they're like, well, why'd you run? Why are you destroying all of our things? Like, just ask. Like,
well, and the other part of that scene too, at the very end, when, like, Allison, I think you mentioned, like, he shoots him in the eye a second time. And it's one of the only 2 times, I think, in the whole movie that he doesn't pluck his bow to warn the creature that he's going to shoot. Like, he's just doing it he's not doing it with honor. He's not plucking it or like giving the creature they just blinded any warning that he's going to be hunting him again. Like, that's a huge part of the movie for me. Also, before we move on, I just want to talk about the sound design of that scene. When the creature, when he starts like weeping and like moaning and like praying to Poseidon, I was like, this sound design is crazy. This sound design is crazy. Like,
I'm so curious how they did it. Yeah, I feel like they overlaid multiple voices is probably how they captured that effect. Yeah,
it's and insane. The fact also that they brought a huge puppet up into that cave to actually give the actors something to act off of is so cool. So
and then
cool.
Everything else is just forced perspective. Like, everything else is just the Gandalf trick from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy.
But I don't know. I think one of my favorite through lines of the film that does get set up pretty early on in the film with the bow and how Odysseus uses it, and him explaining that he likes to pluck it to like give a warning. And then we see that happens through most of the movie. And then there are those few instances where very explicitly he doesn't do it. And then you kind of have to think about why and like what the movie is telling you. And I just thought that was utilized so well, like from beginning to end.
Absolutely. Speaking of the bow pluck, we don't have to spend like too much time on this part, but just speaking of the bow pluck, can we talk about Ludwig Göransson's score and music and just that sound that is used with the bow pluck, and just and it's again throughout, not just when he's doing the axes where it's bigger, but like when he's going for the boar, when he is going for the deer on Cersei's, which, oh my God,
we'll get to that.
Cersei's whole thing.
We'll get to that.
I need, but like, just the sound and the music and the score that goes on through it.
It's such an untraditional score that we would get for this kind of movie. Yeah. And I love that Nolan really challenged Ludwig to utilize instruments that we aren't used to hearing in movies like this, because it just brought something so unique and so visceral. And there's so many scenes where you just like feel the score in your body. Like,
and I don't know about you guys, like, it didn't give heroic for me at any point.
No, it gave
ego.
Made
some of the scenes be like a big like crescendo,
triumphant,
and it could have been very like Lord of the Rings, right? Where it's like you get this like this climax. To me, it felt like a constant humming of like, and some peaks and some valleys, and it felt romantic at points, but then it also felt tragic at points and fearful.
Yeah, it was
but
very
I don't
foreboding.
It was not giving us,
I think
like,
that was part of my overstimulation. I think when everything ended and I could go, oh, I think like part of that, like 45% of it was just the music being on. Because I feel like there's not a whole lot of movies that I've sat down and I've watched where I've been so attuned to just how much music is happening throughout. You know what I mean? Like, unless it's a musical, right? Like, because you know what you're getting with that. But like, when I think of like, you know, some of the greatest scores of all time, you're looking at these John Williams scores, right? Star Wars. You're looking at Indiana, like when I think of the prequels, I think of Duel of the Fates, right? Like it's just that, but that's a moment. Like that is just this one song, but like the rest of the score outside of like that and maybe one of the Padme Anakin ones and the opening crawl, like the actual mark, like you know that
one melody from Indiana Jones and you know that one melody from Jurassic Park, and that's like those are the things you know.
And that's what you know. But there's music underlying the rest of it, but you don't, it's not there. It's there, but you're just like, okay, it's there. But I could listen to the opening theme from The Rocketeer or from Jurassic Park and be like, oh, love this. With this movie, it is the way that his sound is mixed with it. It is just so prevalent. The music while Telemachus is telling them to get a boat ready for him and all of that, like in that scene, like there's nothing but talking and music underneath it. And it is the perfect volume for both. When they're in Troy, like what the sound and the music just being there.
The amount of stress when they're in Troy because of the score.
Well,
I'm getting secondhand overstimulation all over again.
Did you get the hint at all? Did you get the hint at all that because I know like a whole other point people have talked about the fact that like the gods aren't really featured as characters, right? I mean, there are obviously moments where it's meant to be they're communicating, right, with the Zeus, the thunder, the storms.
Yes.
I kind of viewed the music though as also an attempt for them to still capture the fact that they're being watched.
Oh,
right?
yes.
They're being watched. There's something else in the background, even when they don't know, we know.
Yes.
And the moments of silence and what that means to me felt like it was a moment of the gods are not with you in this moment.
Yes.
And they carefully use silence. And I think that to me was toward the end of it, I had this moment where I was like, oh, I think that they're kind of supplementing the lack of like having Aphrodite or someone on the screen or Poseidon with the music. And it becomes more obvious at moments with thunder. But throughout the whole thing, I think if I were to pay attention more carefully to the music specifically, I feel like they were trying to use it to be the gods as well, of who was being watched the whole time.
I think Athena basically says that to Odysseus at one point where he's like, why aren't the gods talking in languages we understand? And she's like, you don't understand thunder, you don't understand a children's laugh, you don't understand pain. Like, and I think that was her kind of trying, you know, through Athena, through setting up
setting it up in the movie. Like that is one of the first scenes that you have. And so that's one of the first moments. So she's like, so literally it's Athena is telling us, hey,
we're here.
You may not see us, but you're going to hear us. And you're going to know that this is who this is throughout based on these cues, which again, just shows literacy is dead. People can't understand that that's what that is.
Yeah, like, true.
We are doomed as a society. As I sit here with my own,
you guys,
1 feet away from Wally with my Kindle arm and clicker.
At least we have each other and our 12 listeners of this podcast that we can discuss these things with.
Cersei. We got to talk about the Cersei.
We do.
Everything else I feel like are just like bits. I feel like the two parts of the journey that are most important to talk about is the Cyclops, which we did, and Cersei. And the one thing I want to mention with Cersei is I need Christopher Nolan to do a body horror film. I need to, and again, it's like, okay, yes, technically in the story, Odysseus stays with her for a year and his men are pigs for a year and then he goes off, right? Like, and again, how much of that is him being there for a year because he wanted to or because he felt trapped, but oh, she's feeding me and boning me and let's just do whatever, you know, because like Odysseus is a piece of shit. But at this thing, not only is this like a pivotal moment. Before, well, we're gonna talk about the underworld too, but we'll get to that.
We'll get there. Yeah.
Those are our 3 moments. But when he asked her, "Did they hurt you?" and her response was, "They would have." I felt that like I almost started crying. With like there's parts in this movie where there are lines that are delivered that are just gut punches, and that was one of them for me. But they would, because how as women or just as human beings, but specifically women in any shape, size, form, whatever that it is, have been in these situations where we may not have gotten hurt, but we could have.
Well, and the movie spends the whole time up to that scene proving that she's right. They've been they've been raping and pillaging and lighting all these islands on fire, and like just because they didn't hurt her in that moment, she literally says it to Odysseus. She's like, you guys have shown like in your nature that this is what you do. Like you consider it to be useful assets as like, you know, soldiers or whatever she says. Like, but realistically, like this is just a part of their nature, even outside of that. Like this is just who they are and what they do. And you let them come here while I was here in my home by myself, and you think that they're just going to behave? Like, are you crazy? Like
that they're just going to eat my food and then go out the door and leave me alone?
Yeah, I mean, they approach, like you're saying, like in every scene we see before, they approach the world with this air of possession that at first feels like it's a champion sort of feeling of, well, we won Troy, and so what's going to stop us? And then I feel like it quickly turns into just a like entitlement of the world is we just keep getting fucked. I'm sorry, I forgot to ask if we can curse on that.
No, you're fine. Yeah, you're good.
Of course we can. And so it becomes this like desperate entitlement of like, well, we just have to now because we've had a Cyclops and we keep running into this. And they almost become like this like victim mindset thing of like where you can go to a place where it's like, I just have to do whatever I need to do to survive, right? And it's like by the time they get to Cersei, I genuinely felt like Nolan really wasn't about to give us like a air of like not believing her. I feel like genuinely the whole and the length of time we spend with her turning them is also meant to be where this is not like a cruel person doing it to these people out of nowhere like we see in horror sometimes. It's like this is important for you to look at is what it felt like for me. And also the way at the end when she turns them back and the whispering of the like, go back to your disguises.
Yeah,
was also
that was
like
so good.
Like
that
they're
was...
like they're not holding back from saying that they would have hurt her. And even Odysseus grabbing the bird and like kind of still proving like, oh, I'm gonna hurt you to get out of this situation.
To get what I want.
Yep. And then her thing too, she's just like, I didn't turn them into pigs. I turned them into who they truly are on the inside. So that's the whole point of, that's why there's all these different animals, because it's not her choosing to turn them into that. That is what, based off of their actions and their means and their all like what they've done. This is what you are. This is who you are. This is where it's going. Like, so again, back to your disguises of men, but really you're a bunch of pigs is what you are.
Yeah. I loved hearing Himesh Patel talk about that scene and filming it, and how he talked about how he just like couldn't believe what was happening watching that scene being filmed, because they used practical horror effects to do it. Like they were using in-camera practical horror effects, and like I can't even imagine being on set for that and just being like, I feel like I'm like hallucinating or having a stroke watching this happen on camera, because most movies would just be like, we'll just do that in post, we'll just figure out how to CGI that. And like watching it for the first time, because I saw this movie for the first time at the press screening, like the early screening by like a day or two, in the giant 70 millimeter IMAX, and seeing that scene in giant 70 millimeter IMAX when I was not prepared for what was about to happen, I was just like, Oh my God.
It's like, how are they going to do this? And like the one thing that Christopher Nolan is so big on, we've said about it, he's like no CGI. Never
unless he absolutely has to. Unless he absolutely
has to. Otherwise, you are not getting any of that. Like, it is going to. There's a reason why this movie had a $250 million budget, right? Like, and made it up and then some in opening weekends.
Before we move on, because I don't know if we have any more we want to talk about in this island in particular, we got to talk about. There's been a couple like memes that have already come out of this movie. One of my favorite ones is after he shoots the deer and we just see the naked man form, and everyone was like, "What is Connor Story, Ilya Rozanov doing in this movie?
Yes.
That butt? What are we doing?" And I was like, "Okay, all right, all right."
And there we go. Christopher Nolan.
Everything ties back to heat of rivalry. Chris Nolan is not. He cannot escape it. It's there. Somehow it's there. I don't know what we're doing.
He gave it to us. That is 100% true. I think the last point I was going to say about that whole sequence was like, I think I just wish I had more of them together, only because I find the two characters of Circe and Odysseus to be kind of like black and white opposites. It's not even necessarily the romance part that I was craving, even though I think that could have added something. I think it was just that they're both people who in different ways have like rejected the gods and like by the time Circe gets to the island, I guess for people who don't know, I won't go fully into it, but she for different reasons has been betrayed or rejected, to put it simply, by the gods. And so she herself has these powers, but the reason why she has a lot of conflict with the traditional gods is that she has learned how to do witchcraft is the new thing. And the reason that is an issue for a lot of the traditional gods is witchcraft allows human beings to have some agency and relationship with the world around them without the gods influencing it in some ways, right? It's like a new way of approaching the world where you kind of are asking and taking from plants and animals and the air and whichever, in a way that scared the traditional gods, and so they forced Circe to sort of live this life of isolation. And I view Odysseus in a similar way, as at that point in the movie, at least when he encounters her, is struggling to integrate himself with the world, and he's still fighting it. He's approaching the world with this level of animosity and doesn't want to go home. We don't know really that yet explicitly, but it's because he doesn't feel like he has a place anymore. And so for him, it's like he wants this heroic thing. He wants this control over everything. And she, in a lot of ways, offers him sort of just a different perspective of she still has a lot of control over her life, but there's also an element of responsiveness and listening that she does that allows her to do witchcraft. But anyway, I just love their interactions with each other as two people in the world with what their background. Together.
I mean, jumping off of what you said there, I thought one of the more interesting lines in the film is, as the men have transformed back into their disguises and they're all getting ready to leave the island, and they're like, she's a witch, you're just gonna let her live? And Odysseus says, "Oh, she was given those powers by your gods." And the way that he, through so much of the film, says your gods to them, even though we watch him interacting with Athena and we know that his men have heard him praying to Athena for help at some points. I just think it's so interesting that the movie like points out to us kind of how much like disdain he has for the gods almost, or he's not sure if he has a belief in them because he tells Athena that they don't communicate to him in ways that he understands. But then you also have him going around like using Zeus's law and throwing that around for everything. So he's just such an interesting, like contradictory guy.
It's the idea of like when you talk about it that way too, it's this idea of like New Age Christianity. Right? We can all say we're doing things in Jesus's name as long as it's convenient for the narrative that we're trying to push forward. As long as we're getting like, there's no, like they say, like there's no love, there's no true love like Christian or whatever that is, or no hate like Christian love. And not saying that that's everyone. Like I know for a fact that's not everybody, but the way that it's being done in everything that's being done in God's name, and it's just taking Zeus and putting it to Jesus, right? It's literally just all those same beats hitting it's like the world never learned. And that's what Christopher Nolan's telling us. He's like, y'all still haven't learned. It's still happening regardless of whether
we still fight these wars in God's name, these holy wars for this holy land, and we still do all this bullshit. We still do it.
And none of it's changing, and we just haven't learned our lesson. I think like going through the motions of this film and each one of these, and like it keeps getting back to, is Odysseus trying to get his men home because he wants to get them home? Like he really cares that deeply about them? Or is he trying to get them home to still get that hero's welcome that he was expecting to get with that ego that he had when they left Troy? Like, and we'll still beat Agamemnon home. Like all of it started because of an ego trip, even though he was... right, like, which is such a man thing.
And it leads us perfectly into Hades. It leads us perfectly into him talking to Agamemnon in the underworld and that whole hero's welcome thing.
And like it's not worth it. And it gives everybody the rest of the 5 minutes that they were angry about when Sinon shows up on our
Achilles,
screen. Elliot Page. But there's your turning point, right? Like there is the point of, he's seeing all of the men that he's let down, or that he's that he was put in charge of, and he was supposed to be this hero for what he did. And like everyone who's still alive is singing about the hero that is Odysseus and the horse and all of that. But here's all of these men here that are just
dead,
forgotten. Like they're just
forgotten.
Bye. Like we had to leave them. It is what it is. And Sinon being kind of one of the ones that got dicked over the most of all of them. Like he was lied to, had no idea that all those people were in the horse, but he thought he was doing something heroic by staying behind. And Odysseus he's like, if you look, he goes, you lied. And he was like, but you had to believe. And even Sinon's like, I would have done it. Like you act like I wouldn't have still stood there and helped and life. Told you what was happening, knowing that I could die when I said that I would die for you, and you still made me die alone or think I was dying alone.
That's what, the thing that Odysseus took from him, right, was like having any ability for like a last word to give him a message, right, to do something where he could have had say over his own death, right? He was going to die probably either way based on, him saying like, I would have done it anyway. And so the thing Odysseus removed from him was his ability to have any say or control or anything over his last moments, because he was going to die either way. Yeah,
exactly.
I was reading this article the other day, actually, kind of just breaking down like the character of Sinon and like how significant the casting of Elliot Page for that role actually was. And I won't go too deep into it, but I can post like the link for people in the description if they want to see it. But basically, it's talking about how the character of Sinon's not in the Iliad or the Odyssey. He's in a completely different book that has to do with all of this. But and it's also talking about how Sinon as a character is like a liar, and he's deceitful, and he's like all these basically horrible things in the original text that we see him in. But Nolan added him into a story that he wasn't in and made him like the reverse of it, basically, where he is the way that Odysseus faces his guilt. Like it's making him actually come face to face with his guilt and making him like a symbol for like Odysseus's shame and like kind of having to face all of those things, and how it's kind of like a really, really big deal to cast a trans actor in that role, like very purposefully, when we're living in a society that doesn't view trans people as like brave or as someone that could do something like that, because they're viewing them as, what do they say? They say you're lying about who you are. They say they're deceitful. They say that they're, all these things. And I just thought it was a really great article where someone was like, yeah, I think it was really purposeful. And I think it was really powerful to like put a character like that, and then to cast someone who is trans and who's worked with Nolan before. And like, I don't know, it just was like something I hadn't even thought about, because I didn't know Sinan as a character, because he doesn't appear in the Odyssey. So I didn't really know about him, but I just thought it was a really cool point that I wanted to kind of bring up.
And there's an add-in that furthered the story in an incredible way, because it gives us a reason why we still hate Antinous, and a reason to get home, to give him back, his shame, as they said. And then to bring in Agamemnon, who we still don't see his face.
He's still ore farming. He's still ore
farming hardcore. But he tells Odysseus, don't make the mistake I did. Don't go in through the front door expecting a hero's welcome, because he wasn't going to get it if he did that. With all of those suitors, with everything, like that was not going to happen. And just that entire scene, again, it's just a love letter to just good filmmaking, and just I mean, just moments that sit with you in a movie, is that right there is Sinan just like talking to Odysseus, and the way that Elliot Page played it was, because it's like, and then not only that, is he's been holding on to this grudge too, of like, I finally saw a shade of my father. I didn't see my father, but I got to see, this shade, this version of him. And he let me know that every word that you gave them was also broken, because Antinous didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And he died poor and sickly and all of this. And it's, it just goes back again to like, you lied, because that's who he had to blame, right? Like, did you not? And then when he was like, oh, you didn't know this? Well, here you go, right? It's just these moments of these big pivotal moments that were just adapted from a source material into a better version than what that source material was.
Well, because the source material lists like 57 names of people he talks to, and spends like all this time just like listing out all these names.
A lot of
after a while, my eyes were,
says in Hercules, a lot of usses.
my eyes were crossing after a while. I was like, this is too many names of too many people that he's talking to. But I also do think it was a great way for Nolan to adapt that into this kind of more grounded, realistic version of the Odyssey that we're getting, right? Like, there was a way for them to sail to the underworld, to Hades, and to have it look like the kind of earthly realm that we recognize and that he recognizes, but there's still something very eerie about it. And there's still something very like foreboding and otherworldly about it when they get there. And I just thought that that was such a cool, like, visual way to represent that.
All the men chasing him back to his ship.
Yeah. Oh, and the score. Oh my gosh, the score during that part was incredible. It was such a great. It was a great way to represent that whole interaction and to kind of tie it together in a more concise way than what we get in the poem. And I also thought it was great that we got to hear Cersei like narrating like how they were going to get there and like what was kind of waiting for them there. Samantha Morton is just so incredible in this film. She's so good. She's so good. Yes.
I immediately went into my Libby app and put a hold on Cersei by Madeline Miller. Because
you'll love it. Please report back when you read it.
Oh, I will. We'll have a book club. Yeah, and then the running away from the men that are chasing him, and just this constant like going in, running away, right? After
can we talk? Or I was gonna say, can we talk about? I forget their names, but speaking of running away, the giant men on that one island with the silver,
the Lystragonians.
Yeah, I thought that was also just like a really well done scene. And I don't know if you had the same experience in your theaters, but I think around that moment is when I felt like a shift where people who thought it was going to be a heroic story like realized it wasn't, because that scene in particular, it's like these men again go to another island, they think they're going to just take shit and leave, and they literally meet men that are literally bigger than them, like bigger than them, taller than them, stronger than them like reflected back at them. Like it's these guys in this armor, these war ready people just doing what they're doing to them, and they're just bigger and they're stronger and they're better at it. And so I thought that scene in particular, it was like shorter, but I thought it was again meant to reiterate, it's like this is what you are, and also you're not the biggest, toughest people in the world. There's people bigger than you and tougher than you, and they just, again, like Odysseus still refuses to sort of acknowledge that out loud, but all of his men I think start to turn after that too.
That's when and it's starting to like sink in, and then the tables turn. Right now Odysseus is like, no, I'm really trying to get us home. If we go here, this is what you guys want to know what's going to happen. Fine, here's what's going to happen. If you eat that cattle, y'all are going to die. And at the end of the day, I think the moral of the story that Christopher Nolan is trying to like really reiterate is, no matter what, men are terrible people, and men will do what they want to do. And these men are going to do what they want to do. And it does. And not a single one will ever learn from their mistakes. Everyone thinks that they're the ones that are going to be impervious to whatever the gods demand, whatever fate demands, whatever it is that is demanded. We're going to be the ones that shirk it. And we're going to be the ones that say, no, not today. And then we finally get back on the boat. And I've been watching, like, Taylor, I was messaging with you. I've been watching the people that went to go see this movie in like 4DX.
In the 4D? Yes. Yes.
Oh my God. Are there videos of this?
And this scene is happening, and you just hear people screaming, and you see the chairs just go.
People put TikToks of that scene, of them watching that boat scene in 4DX, and it is hilarious because you can see
the water just spraying everywhere in the theater. The chairs are going.
I thought the IMAX, I felt like I was drowning with them. I can't even imagine what the 4DX is like, because not only do you probably have the water spraying,
the scene would have ended, everything would have stopped, and I would have just got to be like, okay.
Time to go home.
Sorry. And I'm gonna go home.
No, that scene, like,
I'm like, I'm Odysseus, I'm lost at sea, it's time to go home.
That scene was so viscerally shot that, like, when I was watching it in the IMAX for the first time, I had to like cover my eyes a couple times because the lightning was just like getting to me, because it was like filling up that whole, like, 80-foot, 60-foot screen, and I was just like, I literally feel like I'm dying.
Oh, and Allison, maybe she literally.
I think she did. I think it took her out.
Had to leave the ship.
It's too much. But I thought that scene, really did put you like in the middle of it, where I was like, I feel like I'm sensory overload. Like the lightning's too much, the sound is too much. Like it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah, no, I think like the ship scenes in general, I will say, you're back. Oh, wait, can we hear you?
Oh, hold on. Can we hear you? Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now we can. Okay.
Cool. Okay. I got a little involved. I hit the wrong button, and
fair.
That's all right.
I was gonna like quickly chat about speaking of like the ships and everything. I will say the one scene where I don't know if you got any feelings during the movie where you felt like some scenes had to be cut for time, but one sequence that I felt like was too short, where I was like, if there's a director's cut, I hope I am right about this, was the Scylla sequence. Where for me, that was like one of the most, I was like, I was waiting to see how they would depict it on screen, because I was like, that's like a Nolan cinematic moment where they would have all the heads coming in, and it's just like awful. And I felt like time-wise, I just feel like there's probably more sequence there that they had to just be like, if we're cutting somewhere, we got to cut it. Because I think she grabs like one of them, and then they do the thing, and they're able to like get away. And I was like, no, like I need more time with Scylla, please. I'm like, that is a whole other thing in itself of like, meeting a creature who just keeps coming kind of thing.
maybe I just like went into it with different expectations, because I've seen a couple people mention that, and I wouldn't have minded seeing it be a longer scene. But I think for me at that point, I was kind of just like, to me, I guess I just like wasn't really what Nolan was like focusing on and kind of what he wanted us to focus on. For me, it was more like what we were supposed to take away from that scene was the crew realizing that Odysseus had kind of like lied to them and tricked them into making a decision that he wanted them to make. And then him kind of just being like reluctant to like keep telling them what was going to happen to them. So I guess for me, I was more just kind of like locked into that being the part of the story where we kind of get to see that like kind of tension really come to a head, like with the group. Yeah. But I definitely wouldn't have minded a longer sequence.
For sure. I think the abruptness of it, like just with how quickly it happened and how quickly these men just get plucked, and they get plucked for no reason other than they were right there. And that's who Scylla chose to take. So there really wasn't an ability to, because they have nothing at this point to even fight with. Like, what are they going to do? Cut off one of the heads and have like 3 more spout out? Like, what else can you do? Would I have loved to see more of the monster? Yes. I think that is, I would, if there is more, of course, I want to see more monsters. I want to see more Nolan monsters. Who doesn't? But also, on the flip side, with like Taylor's point, the abruptness and the quickness of just showing how little life, I don't really know matters, but like just how small these men are in the grand scheme of things. And I think one of the things that kind of comes with that scene is these are men who were on this big, we're the best, we're big, we're amazing, we just, won finally, all of this, having these big, and slowly it's getting chipped away with each step and with each stop. And they just had this joy of like, oh, we got a break. We didn't go in the whirlpool. Like, we're not dead in the whirlpool. We got a break. We made it. And then it's fuck, right? Like, here comes this monster. And it just goes through that, like, no. And like, that's kind of the point of like what happened, and having it happen right after being in Hades and hearing that this is going to happen, that no matter what you do, they're all going to die and you will get home. And then it becomes this avoidance of going home after that, because now I have to go home and face these stories that people are telling about me that are not true. And I have to, you know what I mean? And so I think with having it be as short as it was and how quick and how abrupt it was, it just hammers even in home more the whole idea of like, y'all ain't shit.
it's like that. And the not to go back to Emily Wilson for a second, but one of the intro points she gives in her translation is the idea of the name thing, and why the names keep coming up in the book is in part because the culture back then thought it was genuinely like the worst possible outcome for someone to be forgotten. And so if you were going to depict someone's death in a book, it was like considered blasphemy to not include their background. So even like insignificant characters who are getting killed off, it's like to them that was like, that's what you're here for, is to have a name and to have like what you did in this life. And I think Odysseus, that's like part of what the sequence with like the men running after him in Hades, and then also his men realizing that he is betraying them in a way. It's like his name is the one that gets to be remembered and they all don't.
Yeah.
And he's realizing that along the way. And when he sees the men literally in death chasing him, he knows that, but his men that are left don't. And they're still, that's when you hear them saying things like, should we bury him? Like, should we go get his body? It's like, it's in part because one of like the cultural violations he's doing from the jump is he's no longer bestowing that same value in life on his men and his people. And the men are starting to pick that up. And it's like, even the name of the Odyssey, it's like, who gets remembered? It's like, he's getting remembered because he's decided that he wants to be in control as much as possible of the situation. Scylla, with that outcome, it's like, he's told straight up, either all your men are going to die or some of them are going to die. And those are the choices, right? And it's like, even if those are true, which again, we're assuming in this world that is true, he again like takes the volition of the men out of it. He doesn't give them any choice over it. He decides for them because he's smart what the best outcome is, right? Which it goes to like the whole intelligence thing with Oppenheimer, I think is interesting. But it's like he decides for these men what is better for them without asking them or involving them at all. And then they die and he knows where they're gonna go. So it just is like unraveling at that point.
And it's like they all find each other again. They're like, you too? They're like, yep.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this guy with the
this guy again? You too?
Yeah.
This guy?
He gets the songs? Yeah, literally.
Crazy. Well, there are two other things that I want us to touch on for sure.
Yes.
Before we wrap this up, because this is going like way longer than we usually do, which I thought was going to happen, by the way, because there's just so much to talk about. But one thing I did want to talk about, well, the first thing I wanted to talk about was I really liked the way that Nolan chose to do the Odysseus and Telemachus like reunion in the film versus the way that it happens in the poem. I am not a fan of the way that it happens in the poem and kind of how all that unfolds.
No. And can I tell you something? Not to like domineer what you were saying.
No, go ahead. Go.
I love in a story, hear me out, when a character comes back home or like meets reoccurring characters and no one else in the scene knows, but you as the reader, the viewer, know exactly what's going on. Something about that, I get so hungry for it. Like in Count of Monte Cristo, which is one of my favorite books, there's a similar sequence that goes longer. And I just love when you as the audience get to like sit with a character in that knowledge and you get to witness other characters figuring it out or not. I find it so fun. And just
I like to be like, you're so stupid. You're so dumb.
Well, when he like sees his friend, oh my god, I'm bad with names again, but the blind man.
Emmaus.
Again, you can tell he's kind of like, oh yeah, like I met him, and then he's like,
isn't that crazy?
Was like a bad instructor. Odysseus is like, yeah, he was kind of a jerk or whatever. He's
and Eumaeus is like, no, he's great. And
he's great. He's great. He's alive though. He's alive, and everyone's like,
for sure. Yeah.
I love any time in a movie or a story that happens. I just think it's like so fruitful because it's like you get to let the audience enjoy the fruits of their labor of being with you up until that point. And I just was so excited for the final sequence. And yes, the moment when he meets, again, bad with names, Telemachus. Telemachus, thank you.
Yeah.
I was curious if they were going to let Telemachus know it was him before violence was going to break out.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad, even though the dog moment was sad, I was like, he would know. Like, based on what we've had, the moments we've had with him, his attention to detail, that would be enough for him to know.
Well, I also like that we got to see them spend some time together, like, in Pylos, like when he goes to rescue Telemachus in Pylos, and we get to see them interact with him, just thinking of him as a beggar and kind of getting to see, again, the example of like how Telemachus treats beggars that he doesn't know anything about, and how he is still trying to do the thing where he's like, we got to bury his body. He's still kind of not gotten to that point where Odysseus is at, where he's like, nope, staying alive is more important. Like, we'll worry about that later. Like, that was just such an interesting contrast.
Also, Odysseus, when he goes to Pylos to try to intercept Telemachus, a mentor, and rather than saying Odysseus sent me or your father sent me or whatever it was, he says Eumaeus sent me.
Yeah.
Because that was enough to get Telemachus's attention.
Yeah.
But it still showed that like Odysseus he's listening to what Agamemnon said. He's realizing like he's still that calculated trickster, smarty, kind of. And then you start seeing that Telemachus is picking up on some of those skills when he sees the one priest with the blood on the sleeve. He's like, so he knows not to like, doesn't go in drinking the wine and doesn't do, so like you're really starting to get some of that father-son, like not bonding, but like you're seeing the similarities in a way, but Telemachus just still hasn't, he could still go one way or the other, and he hasn't made that distinction yet.
But and then, of course, scene with the dog, guys, like it was like I knew, like as soon as like he started walking up and Argus was there, I was like, oh god, oh no, it's coming, it's gonna happen.
The little tail.
We got to talk about. I know that people are dumb and they've been ragging on him, but like Tom Holland's eye acting in this movie, like. He, in that moment, the emotions on his face and as he's processing what's happening, I was like, I'm going to start crying.
Yeah.
Because you're. I do think lines of like, "You're my dad."
You're my. I don't know. It was working for me.
Daddy, as Robert Pattinson said in the beginning.
Daddy. Listen,
you're crying for daddy.
We need more reasons. We need more reasons for Robert Pattinson to just have to say daddy in any context. True. All right.
Absolutely. So true.
Like,
and speaking of Robert Pattinson, as we're getting very long-winded, I think we also need to give our flowers to a smarmy, he does bad guy. So people who did not, it's still to this day, people not understanding how good of an actor Robert Pattinson is.
I know.
You're just choosing to be dumb. Like all you're choosing is and to be fair, he had great acting in Twilight. He was probably the best part besides Charlie of all
probably,
of those
probably.
Like, he ate what he was served in that script, you know, like he did what he could.
And he did it he was perfect. But
listen, like right after Twilight releases, if you don't know any better, like that's fair enough. But it's been so long now that if you don't know any better, like that's just on you.
If you have not watched Good Time, if you have not watched
The Lighthouse,
if you have not watched The Lighthouse, if you have not watched The Batman, of all fucking movies, if you're not going for that A24 shit, go watch The Batman.
Literally.
That too. But like for people to still not understand how good of an actor Robert Pattinson is, if you don't want to go and watch any of those other movies, which you still should, like this movie here shows you how I've never wanted to, I cannot tell you, the only other times I've wanted to reach through and punch somebody's face on a screen is anything with Timothée Chalamet, because his face is just punchable. Regardless of how people feel about him, I just feel like he has a very punchable face, just in general. Like, I just want to punch it. With this movie, with Robert, like, I just wanted to punch him in the face. And then, again, you're seeing him with how he is with everything. And during the slaying of the suitor scene, how he's still a coward. Get the sword, get the shield.
The biggest coward.
Biggest coward.
Like, speaking of like Tom Holland's character being like the archetype of like sort of the modern young man, I think Robert Pattinson is meant to be the archetype of the modern like good guy in a lot of, because the scene with him and Penelope is where I more so speak to that, because he's obviously not a good guy in like most other scenes when he's interacting with men. But when he's with Penelope in that one scene, I was almost tricked, because I know him as like he has that romantic lead ability where he can he can like become very intimate, and it seems like he's getting vulnerable, and in reality he's backstabbing her in that scene, and she's able to pick up on it. And as soon as he walks away and he makes out with like the girl, I was like, oh my god, like I almost fell for it, because he's meant to depict that guy where it's like he could choose a different life and be a good guy and do, you know, kind things and be helpful in the situation. And instead he is choosing to be like, use all of their food and their stuff and be just like an asshole the whole time.
Yeah.
And I thought that Robert Pattinson, what he added to that role, I think just like did a lot for me, and what Anne Hathaway did with Penelope, because again, it's like when we talk about an archetype, I thought that Robert Pattinson's character was meant to be sort of just the guy who could choose a different path and be a good human, and is instead choosing selfishness and is betraying like this woman who is in a position of vulnerability, and he's just literally, being a dick. But I would like to talk about the fight sequence, I guess, a bit longer with all of them and him and the bow, because Taylor, you mentioned the meme earlier, and I think that one is probably the one I've seen the most, with the little bow string moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just love the whole thing. I love the tie back with like treat everyone with kindness because you don't know who could be Athena in disguise or a god in disguise, and that Odysseus ends up being the person in disguise.
Yep.
I love just how they're treating him with such cruelty. Like he's even asking for food, his own food, and they won't even give it to him. And to me, that scene is where it just really tied to like a lot of modern day things of just like how people get talked about when like they're poor, and like this idea of like hierarchy over each other. And to have all of the men try and do the humiliation ritual of stringing the bow.
Yes.
Yeah. And Penelope knowing they're not going to be able to do it, and all of them thinking they're cocky enough to do it, and all of them failing. And then Odysseus getting up there and just being like, I want to go before you.
I love and I love you get the fake out where like Penelope's like, wait, is it him? And then she's like, oh, no, walks away, and then he does it, and then you're just like, it's what is it that they say, like the actually a fist bump moment, when a fist pump moment, and as soon as he plucked it, and Penelope turned, you're just like,
and then
you just know, and all of the men just knows, they all just start.
They know immediately they fucked up. They fucked up so bad.
But also, I think. Oh, go ahead. Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, my thought. When he comes back and he's in that beggar disguise, it's again that full circle moment. And like when he goes and he talks to Penelope, and he's just like, what he's dealing with and how he's being treated in that moment is all of what him and his men were doing just to get back to this point.
Yep.
And him knowing like, once we get this one, I'm going to exile. I'm done. This is it. I want none of this anymore. It's like that epiphany awakening of like, okay, I've got, it really hits. Like, even he remembers with Calypso, he gives himself to the sea and gets home, and then that's it. And then the one moment that he is having his eye contact with Athena, I do the quotes because of, again, that playback when you're seeing the fall of Troy from his eyes, and they're bringing this woman, and it's Zendaya, but now she's taken the form as Athena, but the what you see get cut off is the head of the statue of Athena. Was this Athena, or was this a ghost of this woman that he watched his men murder? Is, you know what I mean? Like, I think just that kind of concept that that's Christopher Nolan's Inception moment of this movie, and I feel like he's done that with everyone since then.
Yes, or like to do the Oppenheimer moment, it's the bomb going off.
Yeah,
I mean, in a lot of it's the men realizing the consequence of their actions. And
there's a couple of like lines in that monologue that I actually wanted to talk about, because I think they're just like, so they like hit me right in the chest, basically. The first one being, to burn the walls of Troy was to burn the world entire. Like, and him realizing that the moment that they did that, they started that Oppenheimer chain reaction that we're talking about, right? I mean, he says it. He says, we left them a gift, an offering of peace that they took into their home. We violated all that's ever sacred between people. And again, that goes back to kind of what we were talking about, where it's like, it's such a mirror to the world that we're living in right now. Like, it's that idea of, first of all, him just being like the smart guy with the ego and the trickster, where it's like he knew that he was going to be able to utilize the fact that they all respect the same gods, and they respect offerings of the gods and Zeus's law. And as soon as Sinon said it's an offering for Athena, for Athena's temple, that they were going to bring it into the walls of Troy and not question, why would we turn away a gift of an offering to the gods? Why would we do that? And as soon as that happens, and then the men break out of the Trojan horse and they start that war, and they break the fragile bonds of men, the whole of society falls. Like, it starts that chain reaction that destroys the world, that Oppenheimer talks about. And I just think that monologue just like, I had to sit there and be like, whoa, whoa.
The multiverse of Nolan and
I was like, wait a second. He's feeling really, Nolan is going through it with how society is looking right now. And I don't blame him for it.
This is his existential crisis through the Odyssey.
I was just going to say like, and then I, to point out too, something I had thought about is like, I think you both touched on it. I definitely think that Nolan was messaging directly to the audience for a lot of moments in this movie. And then part of me by the end of it was wondering if he's also messaging about himself and like feelings that he has had. And I have seen some people theorize he may be like a lot of his inspiration of why he like fixates on men in moments that where they basically pushed beyond the threshold to have a sort of power or control that they thought that they needed to have, like Oppenheimer with the bomb, Odysseus and his whole thing. And like, why is that fixation important for him? I think it could be both of that. It's a commentary for us that he thinks we need to hear it. I also just wonder about like, to zoom out for a second, like there was just something so interesting to me about the fact that he could have made this movie heroic, and he could have made this movie very differently, and he would have done well. But instead he chose to take literally like what is considered the archetype of masculinity and like the hero's tale, and instead of giving it to us in a way of like, oh, it feels good, it's comforting, like, yes, like give it to us, like more of this like hero's tale that has been told a lot of times, he decides to make it like a lesson and also like an invitation to reflect. And I don't know, I just think there is something deeper there. I don't even pretend to know exactly why he fixates on that in particular in modern day, but I think there is something definitely important about his connection with Oppenheimer, what he is trying to get at of like, to me, it also just speaks to like when you are a person who has the ability to create, or you're intelligent, whatever words you want to put on it, you're able to see something in the world and see an option, that there is a responsibility with that. And instead of jumping to, let's just win, like, let's just do the thing, let's just put the bomb in there, like, let's just be the more powerful one, like, that's going to be the best outcome. I think ultimately a lot of his movies just encourage like slowing down and a moment of pause and a moment of just thinking about, just because you're intelligent or you have the capability, you have the science, you have the money, is it actually the best thing to have happen? Like, why are you doing it? Absolutely. And
for sure,
I think that is the interesting point to me, that when I think back to the movie, I think a lot about what he's trying to say about like intelligent men or the men in power. And it's like, not even necessarily that intelligence is the thing that's flawed. It's like, I think he's more saying it's just, it goes from being like a skill set and a strength to being potentially the downfall of your entire life and the world around you, if you are doing it in a way that is selfish and with ego, and where you're doing it in a way where you think you're better than the person next to you. That's what I think ultimately ties these together for me. But I'm curious of like if you also have thoughts.
I think that there's such a big tie between these two movies specifically, but I also have like this whole thing where I feel like this Oppenheimer and Tenet are like this weird reverse trilogy almost, in a way, with what they're talking about when it comes to like the choices that we make and like our past and our future. And it's a whole thing that we won't get into here. But I do think that he focuses a lot on like the choices that we make and what motivates us to make them, and the fact that we really need to be present, like thinking about the choices that we're making and why we're making them, and like what our effect, like what our ripple effect is, you know, when we may not all be Oppenheimer or Odysseus, but like, you know, I think he's really making a commentary on like we all have those kind of ripple effects with like the choices that we're making and the way that we're treating people and you know, the way that we're viewing the world. And I think he definitely probably feels, whether he realizes or not, I do think he feels a big responsibility with, you know, the power that he's been given and the voice he's been given to tell these kind of stories. And I'm so fascinated to see like where that's going to take him next on the journey, because I do think that the way that working on Oppenheimer and the way that working on the Odyssey specifically, like I think those have had huge impacts on him and kind of what he's going to choose to do with his career. Like the fact, I find it so interesting that he wasn't really thinking all that much about doing the Odyssey, even though it's, you know, something he read when he was in school and like knew about. He wasn't even really thinking about having a connection to doing the Odyssey until him and his wife adopted a dog after all their kids went off to college. And the kids were like, really? You waited to do that until we went off to college? Like, even we've been begging for it forever, but whatever. And so suddenly he has a dog and he'd never had a dog. And then he reads the Odyssey and he's thinking about that dog connection. And all of a sudden he has to make the Odyssey, like, because he understands that dog owner connection now that he never understood, like in the story before, which is like such a fascinating thing, like to think about. But yeah, I'm so fascinated to see like where it's going to take him next and like what he's going to kind of want to do after this, because
honestly,
there's a lot he's exploring.
and no matter what, I'm going to look. Is Tenet one of my favorite movies? No. Am I still confused about am I still confused about what I watched? Yes. But that's, you know what? They all can't be hits, but they can be cool. But they all can't be. All just can't.
I don't know, man. Tenet is top 3 Nolan for me. I have a whole like.
I haven't seen it, to be honest with you.
I watched it, and Frank and I watched it, and we looked at each other, and I go.
It's
what.
The thing with Tenet is it's so meta in terms of like you have to watch it more than once, because now that you know what the future is, like you understand the past of the movie. Like it's this whole like crazy.
It's like Memento. It's like what he wanted to do with Memento, but the technology wasn't quite there yet. So now we have it again. But yeah, no, I Christopher Nolan. I mean, everything the man touches turns to gold. Like just King Midas touch with what he does, and he does it so well. I was actually having a conversation with somebody else. You know, Christopher Nolan doing these big movies and these big things, and it's really easy to think of it in like an ego way, the way that I think of like James Cameron at this point. Like I said it, and my husband said it first, and I just agree with him. But ever since the Avatar movies, there's not to me, and that will make more people mad. There has not been a bigger waste of talent in Hollywood than James Cameron with these.
I agree with you,
because this is the man who gave us The Terminator. This is the man who gave us True Lies. This is the man who gave us The Abyss. The man who honestly gave us Titanic. Titanic was still a feat but all he has done is taken all of those tricks and just put it into movies with more CGI, with reverberated storylines. And he could have done so much more. He was on the forefront of all of this, but now he's just choosing to do this. And you know what? Whatever. If that makes him happy, there's an audience for it, right? I love that the latest Avatar movie flopped and I didn't see it. And I still talk about it being a piece of shit because it flopped and I chose not to see it. But at the end of the day, with all of that, he's still going to feed his ego and make the 2 more, right? Like he's still going to do it. Like he has these stories. But then you take someone like Christopher, who I think the best comparison when you're looking at stories of directing and things like that with big films and big franchises and big blockbusters, kind of the closest thing with Christopher Nolan would be James Cameron. But what Christopher Nolan is doing, the choices that he is making and how he is making them is putting him on this upper echelon to be up there with the Spielbergs, you know, and the things like that, where like James Cameron was there, but now we're here. And I just wanted to use this moment to talk shit on that.
Well, the interesting comparison there is like, it is a great comparison, because Cameron, you know, what set him off with the whole doing all the Avatar stuff was he was kind of doing the similar thing where he was trying to, you know, trying to bring like new technologies and new ways to make filmmaking and like really making the filmmaking experience like better. Kind of what Nolan's doing with all the IMAX stuff. He's just doing it with older technology instead of newer technology, but they're both kind of that same vein where like the filmmaking, like in the practical filmmaking, because even though he uses a lot of CGI, like the technology he's made for it with like mapping people's faces and having the actors still be on set. And like, it is just a different version of all that. So that comparison works very well, but I agree with you. I think one Listen, I'm also an Avatar hater, so like you're not gonna have to ever apologize to me about that.
I've only seen the first one, so I'm not very committed.
But the first one I think is a good movie. Like I can see why he made it. I think the technology is interesting. I don't love the story. I think the story is kind of boring, but I was like, this is really interesting that he has this new technology that he's doing, and like I think it's a really interesting way to like push the boundaries of like how we use technology in filmmaking, and that's really cool. And then he was like, but also there's 8 sequels now, and I was like, okay, so all right,
and now
that means
and the fact that like he literally made nothing until he could have the technology he wanted to make whatever, good for you, I guess, but then at least make it good. Like when you start my whole thing is there's people who are going to go and see it, they're going to watch it, they're going to be like, oh my god, this is this technology, and they're going to love it for that, and that's their 5 stars, and that's their choice. I never understood the ability to sacrifice story to make something that looks like a theme park ride. Personally, that's just me. Yeah. The other thing that I want to note before kind of wrapping up that I feel like is important to note now that we're on the topic of James Cameron and this movie with like the IMAX and everything. One of the things that bothers me a little bit about the Odyssey, probably the only thing, is the Cameron effect of like it being filmed on IMAX, that the way you're supposed to see it is this way in particular. Otherwise, I feel like we're not getting it as much because it's actually a good movie versus like when people said Avatar is bad, it's like, oh, what screen did you see it on? Oh, you saw it on a regular screen. Oh, you can't understand it then because you didn't see it on this. But and it's more manageable now with like different types of like movie subscriptions, like A-List or like what Regal has and all of that, where you can get any screen. But I do want to point out one of the movies that I'm not loving in Hollywood is the inequity of having to see it on the biggest, most expensive screen, or you don't get enough of and I'm not saying everyone's like that, but I feel like I just it felt like I needed to point out the mentality of like, if you're going to the movies, fuck yeah, go to the movies. Go see the movies. Get out. We don't want film to die. We love creativity. We love that. If you're seeing the Odyssey as a matinee on a regular laser screen because that's all you can do to see it, guess what? You saw the Odyssey. Now, if you're complaining about it because you didn't like it, cool. You just didn't like the story. That's fine. But it's the idea of like one of the things that just bothers me is the inequity of it and having to pay. You're already paying this much for the ticket, then you're paying this for the snacks, and then and we know that. And in this day and time, that's just a personal thing, I think, is like the idea of like having to see it on XYZ or spending the money on XYZ in order to have an opinion kind of thing of like that type of inequity. I just feel like I would not be, I couldn't close out without like bringing that part up, that I don't love that, but I understand it. I just don't love it.
And I do think it's unfortunate because I don't think like Nolan himself actually feels that way. Like he's gonna encourage you to see it on like an IMAX screen if you can. Yeah. But I think he's gotten like the unfair reputation of like, you know, because the joke is people will like pretend they're watching it on like their iWatch or like whatever, like, and that's a funny joke. But I feel like Nolan has even said he's like, he just wants people to go to the movies. Right. Like he doesn't actually care.
Like he's getting punished for like the Denis Villeneuve and James Cameron of like, you have to see it on the screen. Like them even saying you have to do this. And like Christopher Nolan's like, or you could just go see my movie.
He's like, just go watch the movie, actually. Like that'd be great. That'd be nice.
I would appreciate if you were just going to see it.
Awesome.
So anyway, final thoughts, star ratings. What are we giving the book versus?
Okay. Here's my final thoughts. Because like the fact that there's so much to talk about in this movie that we didn't even really get into this part of it, which is something that people have been talking about the most. People have their varying opinions, whatever. I think every single performance in this movie is crazy good. Like the whole cast of this movie, for how big the cast is, and no matter how small the role is, like we didn't even get to talk about how good Corey Hawkins is. Like him and Rob Pattinson together are so great. Like there's just such a big cast, and it's so hard to talk about. Or like Himesh Patel, I kind of mentioned him briefly, but him and Damon together, like they had such great chemistry, and they were both really great together. You know, like the whole cast, like Logan Marshall Green is there for like 5 minutes in the final battle, and you get to see him pop up, and it's just like such a cool thing that there's such a big cast and they're all just like so willing to be there, even for the smallest roles or the biggest roles, and everyone is just so bought in. And I love that. I feel like that's something that you can always appreciate about a Nolan film, even if you don't love the story or you don't love whatever. I think the casting director he works with and like the people who want to work with him, so great. I thought everyone was amazing in the film. So I just felt like need to put that out there because somehow we had so much other stuff to talk about. We didn't even really get to like.
Oh, the other line that stuck with me is Anne Hathaway when Tom Holland is asking her, do you want peace or do you want revenge?
Yeah.
And she goes, I want Odysseus, and just storms out. And like her whole speech about like what they're going to do. It's like, you really, and I know that like he's tricking her. And again, comparing back to Odysseus, he has to trick his mother now to like do.
Yeah,
we're gonna go.
The parallels are great. The parallels. I've talked about how like Odysseus is one side of the coin where you have him doing his thing, and then you have Telemachus on the other side. And at first glance, like they don't really look like their stories are all that similar, but they completely parallel each other with like the decisions that they're making and like the way that they're using Zeus's law and like their intelligence and all that stuff we've talked about. But the cast in this was great. So I just wanted to say that. As far as the ratings go for this, I don't know, man. Rating the poem is tough for me because it's not like I necessarily like didn't enjoy reading it. Like it's a tough read, and I don't think it's one that I really want to revisit all the time. Or if I did, I would want to revisit like certain chapters probably, or maybe try to do like a different translation just to see what the differences are. So I don't know. For this, I'd probably give it like a solid 3 for me. Like where it's like I appreciate what it is, like culturally and historically, and the fact that it's basically the text that we've gotten all of our modern tropes from that we use in everything that we read now and that we watch now. Like that's incredible. But I just don't particularly like love a lot of it as a story. So I'd probably give it like a solid 3. The movie, I like immediately was like 5 stars. Like there's so much to appreciate about it, but even the stuff you maybe don't like or you think could be better, it just generates so much conversation and so much like good conversation. And like the people that I've actually been able to talk to about it, like Jacob, my friend Lauren, like we have had such good, like intelligent, like varied conversations, like things we don't agree about, things that we saw differently, like the things we interpreted differently. I think that the job of a good adaptation is to do that, to like generate conversation and give you a different perspective on the text, and to just like have that, right, where you can talk about how there's different perspectives and different ways to see characters and to see a story. And I thought that Nolan like really did a great job of bringing that into a kind of modern world that we live in and making us talk about it and making us think about it.
Yeah, no, I feel like my rating for the book is probably similar. Like I feel like probably like 4-ish stars out of 5 for me, because it's like another one, like you said, I don't know that I would reread it, but I do think some of the language or some of the scenes are just like iconic, and I'm like, I would almost like snip it out and put it as like a thing on my wall even. And for the movie, I think it's actually kind of similar, where I almost would say I'd give it like a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5. And it's like my qualms are just like there were certain moments where I was like I wanted more of, again, understanding it's a 3-hour movie, where I'm like, I wonder if there is a director's cut.
Nolan, give us the 5-hour cut, please.
Give us the 5-hour cut.
Give us the Snyder cut, Nolan.
Literally. Well, there was a part of me where I was like, almost like he could have done a trilogy out of this in a way, but I was like, there's also like things with that, whatever. But there was some. I know, it's like whole thing. There's some
like Nolan, just do it, just full send it, commit, just do the Iliad.
Just do the
whole thing.
Do the whole thing. And there were some parts where I was just like wanting them to slow down or like let me have more moments to just think about things instead of all of the what they gave us. But it was beautiful. It was just like
the projector, like, hey, can you pause it real quick? I got
can you pause it? Like,
I need to know
an intermission. Can we get and the Scylla?
I have some notes I need to take down.
Fair. The Scylla part was probably also the part where I was just like, I almost wanted to just stick with moments more. And I don't know if this is only me, but the beginning like 30 minutes felt like I wanted to just linger on some moments more. I think they were trying to get us like almost caught up to be able to like get going. But I was like,
it was like their version of like an opening crawl.
Yes, where I was almost like, wait, let me like sit with like Penelope a little longer and like sit with what she just said. So I'd probably say a 4 or 4.5 out of 5. I think my favorite parts, I swear I'll condense this so it isn't as long of a response. I loved the overall messaging. I love zooming out and thinking just again about what he could have done and what he chose to do instead. I love the fight sequences. I thought were beautiful. I thought the ending sequence in particular just is one that like I would revisit over and over again. From the point where he gets back home to where it just unfolds as it does, I think was just really beautiful. And the moments with him and Penelope and their little sequence together, I thought was really beautiful. Sorry again, Telemachus, literally throwing the weapons down through the ceiling to his father. And again, it being, I think, a movie that was trying to encourage you to rethink what we maybe think of as strength or masculinity or intelligence and how you can actually support people. Because the reason he's meek is not because, in my view, again, it was because he was trapped on an island with his mom in a situation where he did not know if it would be safe for him to even leave. And so in that fight sequence, I just love that he finds a way to still help his dad. It's like he can't necessarily... He does fight at some parts, but it's like the whole time, it's like it made sense to me why he doesn't jump down there. It's like it would have been more of a liability. He does not have the same ability. Yeah. But he finds a way to still help. And literally, I just love how long it hovers on him fighting that guy above. And again, like the high and below thing of like the gods thing again. I just thought that it was a very smart movie. There's a lot of little things I'd love to revisit. The Cersei sequence is haunting. Like there's just haunting imagery that stuck with me that I really liked. So long-winded answer, but 4.5, 4 out of 5 out of stars.
Book 0, do not recommend. I don't even think I gave it a star rating.
DNR
on my Goodreads. I was like, never again. What was I thinking? I mean, for what it is, whatever, 2 stars, right? Like, it's not like the worst thing in the world. It's classic. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world, guys. There's other things out there, like a hillbilly elegy. So, you know.
Yes, Twilight.
But but it's not something, again, I'm not going to revisit anytime soon, nor choose to read. Movie, like 5 for me, like, infinity stars. I mean, I truly think out of every Christopher Nolan movie that I have seen. Now, again, here's the thing. Am I rushing to like sit down and watch it at home? Probably not. I think that's also a kind of an important thing to note is like, it can still be a really, really good movie. But when I think about like longevity of it for me personally, like, is it something that I'm like going to sit down and watch at home anytime soon? Probably not. Not because I don't want to, but like, it's just not that. Like I got it for what it was, and it was done really well. And I think that's important. And I can't wait to watch it win a bunch of awards and give, Robert Pattinson his Oscar. He better get nominated. I'll be pissed. Fingers crossed. But overall, story-wise, 5 stars. Movie, 4.5, 5 stars. Leaning more towards that 5. I think that he took what is a very dry, very classic piece of literature and gave us something that will stand the test of time. I think this is a movie that this will be one of those movies that gets talked about through film school, through when you're looking at adaptations, I think that this is one of those that people will be writing theses on and use, down the road for their own reporting and comparisons and things like that kind of come along with it. And I am so glad I re-upped my AMC list so I could go and see this movie the 2 times that I got to see it, even with like literally what I tell you, like my shoulders were so tense. And then I like walked out and I just went, and I looked at
I feel like you need to see the 4D now. I had no idea that was like an option.
I'm so stressed thinking about it. I'm like, I don't want to go on that ride. I did see a 4D one time. I saw whatever the Fast and the Furious one was, where the submarine comes up on the ice road when they're chasing. I saw that in 4DX with the workout.
I've seen 2 movies in 4DX. I've seen Skyscraper, the Dwayne The Rock Johnson masterpiece.
Yes.
And I've seen Bad Boys for Life, the other masterpiece. Both of those were not my choices to see those in 4D. That just kind of happened to me.
I love it.
We don't have a 4DX theater here yet. There's one finally opening like in our town in August. So I might be able to catch, if they throw the Odyssey in there, I might be able to catch it before it leaves theaters.
Dune.
But
I was so before and after.
I was so upset that I couldn't see Twisters in 4DX. People were having the time of their lives getting thrown around in Twisters, and I was so upset that I couldn't experience it.
Oh, I love it. Well, wrapping up here, Torie, we always like to talk about what we're reading or what we're watching. So what do you got going on? What you reading? What you watching?
God, I am reading a lot. Currently, I'm reading, God, why would I blink on the name? I'm staring at it over in the distance. I think it's American Rambler. Isaac Fitzgerald, I think, is the author. It's a new nonfiction book about a guy who follows the trail of Johnny Appleseed in modern day. And so far, it's actually pretty funny. I mean, because literally, like, he's trying to find the trail, and it's like a highway or whatever, and he's just like walking around trying to do it. What else am I reading? Lots of nonfiction stuff. Watching wise, I've honestly been obsessed with Obsession. I guess not to just go off of that. I guess it's kind of everyone already is on that page. And
here's the thing, though, that is probably Frank was talking about it. Probably one of the most successful movies of 2026. It was made with like an insanely low budget and has made like millions.
Yes, I love this Indy Navarrete, I think is how you pronounce her name. I want to see her in everything now. Like, that was a lot of what it did for me, was just I love seeing actresses in particular get a lot to do. And this might sound weird, but I love when women can be weird in movies, like when they get weird shit to do. And I just feel like horror in general does not give them enough. And I'm like, give them weird shit to do. There is a lot of weird, very talented actresses out there. Like Mia Goth, I think, has proven it. Where it's like, if you just let them cook, we said earlier, they can give you weird, and they can do weird things you have not seen on the screen before. And I just felt like Obsession gave me things I had not really seen before, or that at least felt like different and refreshing because of who they let do it, which is like a very attractive young actress who could have been depicted in a very different way in a horror movie. And it's like, instead I get to see her with weirdo makeup, just acting like absolutely feral. And I thought she was so talented. So yeah.
Love it.
That's what I'm watching. How about you?
Taylor, what you got?
I have not really been reading anything because I've been trying to save all my brain power for the Odyssey and like making sure that I was absorbing what was going on there. So just the Odyssey was what I was focusing on, like reading and absorbing and trying to like stay in that kind of headspace. But yesterday, I went and put myself in an emotional torture chamber. And I watched Hadestown, the pro shot of Hadestown.
Oh.
So that was great. That was me sobbing in a movie theater for for a good amount of time. It's a beautiful, beautiful pro shot. Like, the cinematography is gorgeous. The way they captured like all the like stage design and like the moving pieces of the set. And just like the way that they were able to tell part of the story through like the blocking of the actors on the stage, like through the camera. It was gorgeous. It was such a beautiful pro shot. And I was like, I know that I'm going to walk into this and I know I'm going to walk out upset, but I'm still going to do it because apparently I want to put myself through that. And then you get to the end and you're like, yep, that's the exact kind of pain that I was expecting to feel. But all the performances are really great. It's just such a beautiful show. If for anyone listening or for you guys, if you haven't experienced Hadestown, like going to see the show, or you haven't listened to the cast albums or anything, I would just recommend going into watching the pro shot, because it is going to be like on streaming somewhat soon, I think. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous show, especially with the theme. If you like the mythology stuff, if you want more of the gods, like there you go.
True.
It's right there in Hadestown for you.
Yep. I love this thing now of giving of theaters and live musicals, live shows being recorded, so that people who can't get to New York or go see it touring can actually experience it. It makes me so happy. Reading wise, I'm still in my romance era, but I like hurting my own feelings and reading the saddest stuff ever. So I am currently reading the Harlem Renaissance series from Kennedy Ryan. I finished Real a few days ago. So now I'm reading Score, which is a second chance romance, which is like my favorite. I'm waiting for Cersei to come up on my Libby app. Cannot wait for that.
Report back. I love that book.
I'm so excited. Talking about like books and retellings. If you like romance, if you like just romance in general, I will throw it out here. I've talked about it before, but I'm going to say it again. Dearly Departed by Chip Pons. It is it's a Hades, former Greek god. So it's romance in a small town with the former Greek god of the underworld, Hades, named Hayden, who is a local funeral parlor director owner, and the sunshine. So you have your very grumpy, and then you have your very sunshine Levi, who is the florist, who their meet cute is Levi has delivered flowers that's going to be for a funeral, and Hayden was like, these need to be warning flowers, lilies, and Levi had brought sunflowers, and it all ensues from there. So if you want a fun little Greek retelling, Dearly Departed, so that way Chip can write more of them, because he gave us Hayden's brothers are Zane and Porter, so Zeus and Poseidon.
There we go.
And Zane is like a himbo mayor of a small town, and I want that book.
As he would be.
As he so would be.
Exactly.
So I want that book. I need that book. I need it. So I need everybody to go and buy Dearly Departed. And I'm going to tell Chip that I put this in here, because like I need everyone to read that book. But it's a fun, different style of like Greek mythology retelling, which is super duper fun. Awesome. Well, Torie, thank you so much for joining us on our now longest episode. I hope we made so many men mad. I'm living for it. But outside of here, where can people find you?
So outside of here, first, thank you for having me. It was wonderful. Torie X Rose on Instagram. I spell Torie with an E at the end, which is, I guess a thing, but Torie X Rose on Instagram. I have a Substack now that I'm trying to write along my road trip about like American history / modern day stuff. If you like reading like pop culture-y / American history writing. It's called Mother of Exiles on Substack, which is pulled from the Statue of Liberty poem, if you didn't know, which is pretty good. Other than that, I feel like those are my two main ones for right now. I'm on Threads and things like that too. You can find me on there, trying to write a bit. So yeah, if you pull up my Instagram and stuff, you'll find my things. So,
yeah, and we'll add the links and everything down below to connect.
Thank you.
Sweet Reads Allison on Instagram and Threads. You can find me just reading my romance, baking my treats, and just living my best life. I am on a book buying ban right now, so you guys cannot let me buy it.
Okay.
I need to pause. I need to pause. I have so much that I need to read.
No books.
Taylor?
Except for Cersei.
Yeah, right.
Except for Cersei.
Yeah. That's why it's a Libby. That's why it's a Libby hold.
Fair.
Yes, you guys can find me on this channel here. If you're watching this on video on YouTube, you can find me pretty much everywhere online at finelytaylored. You can find me crashing out on Twitter. You can find me writing movie reviews on Letterboxd. You can if you just search it, you'll probably find me basically anywhere, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, I'm very online, so
very.
That's what I always say too. I'm like, chronically online.
Chronically. I love a good doom scroll. Well, hope you all enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on the Odyssey, whether you read it. Did you read it in high school? Did you read it in college? Are you like, why the fuck would you read that? We want to hear it all. And leave us your thoughts. And we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Bye.